I was told on my live this morning who want to purchase homes. Instead of putting that money into rentals and low income housing, it would put together programs so you can be in the best financial position to purchase a home. Hiring 100 new prosecutors and firing the ones that George Soros hired. Ending the source of drug addiction in America. And funding better programs for people who are addicted to drugs. That funding would also come from the housing that is for the illegal immigrants crossing our border. If you come over to the United States illegally right now, but give birth to a child in the United States, that child is automatically a US citizen. This is going to stop that from happening. The rise in childhood chronic illnesses, we are going to start incentivizing looking for the root cause of those illnesses instead of just shelling out the medication to these children, not just putting a Band-Aid on it and calling it a day. Building the military and giving monetary incentives to join the military, but also changing the way that the military does things, reconstructing the military, returning jobs back to the United States that are currently being done overseas so that we can further an economic boom. If you are caught human trafficking or drug trafficking and you are convicted, you could get the penalty. Using gas cars instead of electric cars. Making America energy independent again. Drill, baby, drill. People that homeschool will get a check from the government every month, just like the public school system does. Taking that funding from the Department of Education and putting it back in the hands of the parents. Giving the parents back that power, and also holding teachers and faculty accountable for talking about their sexual preferences or the sexual preferences of a child. Setting children up for success before they graduate, and stopping welfare for the people who are coming into this country illegally. Where's the problem with all of that? I don't really know, but I read it. Those are some of the key points. If y'all want to go and read it for yourselves, please do. Stop listening to the media. Have a nice day.
Yeah. Stop listening to the media. They're doing nothing but filling you with all kinds of hoopla nanny. Yep. We don't need it. We don't need the headaches. We don't need the disrespect. We don't need to be lied to every day. It's bad enough that we see the things that we see, that we don't need to have it shoved down our throat every day. It's just kind of ridiculous when this kind of stuff just continues to spew out of their mouths over and over and over and over and over again. It just needs to come to a spot. Stop. It needs to come to a stop. Stop. That's what it was supposed to say. It was supposed to say stop. Yeah. Let's see. I want to find the right place to start off, and I have. So I'm going to pull this up, and let's go ahead and get our X feed started for today. Here we go.
By now, you may already be aware that America was on the verge of being completely destroyed by a gang of very powerful criminals who had made their way right into the heart of power. We didn't notice because they had become our most trusted leaders, entertainers, and politicians. But then things changed. In 2016, patriots in the U.S. military took back power legitimately with the election of Donald Trump. plunged directly into the damage and sickening destruction caused to America and the world. They got to work dismantling the branches of this powerful secret shadow government that was in the process of siphoning off America's vast wealth to their global masters. After 2 years of a dramatic covert operation that was to include the gutting of the corrupt CIA, FBI, and Justice Department, they now face the last remaining pillar of the deep state, their vast media empire. They were using this unparalleled power to confuse the people of the world and distract from their criminality and subversion. They recognized that division and hate among people was the most effective way to keep us occupied and ignorant while they robbed us blind, engineered senseless trade deals, and destroyed distant lands for their own personal gain. The mainstream media, both in America and beyond, now remains the gravest threat to the people of the world. The battle for the American soul began in October 2017 with an NSA intelligence operation that we call Q. For the first time, the people were shown the reality of the world they live in, the extent of the corruption and crime that had been destroying their society for decades. Most of all, it showed them the path to their own liberation. Finally, on July 31st, 2018, in Tampa, Florida, President Donald Trump, avoiding the corrupt media channels by speaking directly to the people, allowed Q followers to display their support publicly. This deliberate action forced the deep state media to cover the story, as not doing so would raise a level of curiosity that could lead to a devastating mass awakening. To defend against this, they joined together in an unprecedented combined global mass media assault against Q, hoping they could deter the public from discovering the truth about our world. They call it a conspiracy, a word associated with unlawful or nefarious actions, depicting Q followers as a danger to society instead of peace-loving patriots just trying to break free from the prison of the mind that was created for them. Their attack on Q was to be just one of countless knowingly false narratives started and pushed by the criminals that control our media. They said Trump colluded with Russia to win the 2016 presidential election. They said he was a puppet to Putin. They claimed he would hurt relationships with our allies. They said he would collapse the economy and the stock market. We heard he was about to go to war with North Korea. They are saying he will do the same with Iran. They even said he would destroy the whole world. These fake narratives kept on coming, and they spread them with full knowledge that they were lies meant to stop the one force that could end them for good. It's time the American people and those all over the world ask themselves what is really going on. What are the people who control our media afraid of? What are they hiding? If you look, you will discover that the fake news media is not free or independent. You will see it is just a propaganda arm of the deep state. You will discover the names and faces of the cabal agents who have colluded to destroy our republic and bend us to their will. They want you divided. Divided by race. Divided by religion. Divided by political affiliation. They want this because divided you are weak. Together you are strong. It's time to research for yourself. You will find many things, among them an unprecedented number of sealed indictments filed in preparation for a mass arrest event. You will also discover an unprecedented list of corrupt CEOs who have recently been removed from their posts. You will see the same in the Senate and in Congress. And you will see the same at the top of the FBI and the Justice Department. This movement is not about one person or a group of people. It is about we, the people. The world is currently witnessing the largest mass treason event in living history. But instead of being fearful, we should be filled with hope. Instead of fighting among ourselves, we should face our only true enemy, the criminal deep state and their once invincible mainstream media apparatus. Do you want to free yourself? It's easy. Follow Q and turn them off.
Pretty simple. Pretty simple. Understanding the illusion of Mockingbird media gives us a totally different sense when you look into Q. It's that simple. When you're capable of taking the questions that Q asks and researching for yourself and finding the answers, you begin to find out that you begin to know things that other people around you have no clue about. And you try to assist people with trying to wake them up and everything else. And we've all experienced losses of relationships, friendships, family. You know, people that we considered our bestest friends in the world, our children, our parents, even grandma, But you know what's funny is the grandparents seem to be the ones who catch on the fastest, because they have memories. They can remember what it was like before. They remember what it was like as children growing up. They remember what it was like, what it was like in school, what they were taught in school, and things like that. And today, we don't see a very large percentage of so much of this that they, it just kind of compounds over and 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 over. Do I need to say over one more time just for the shits and giggles of it? Sure. And over. What do? We do everything that we can. All right. Gateway pundit, judge presiding over Donald Trump, Fulton County, RICO, ignored evidence that Georgia Secretary of State lied about an audit following the 2020 election. So let's go ahead and pull that article up. And it'd be great if they have this on audio or video. Well, it appears that there might be a few.
Well, the envelopes themselves, they are in a physical format, and you actually have to do them one by one because they're used envelopes. So if you try to scan them in batches, they will just jam in the printer.
Okay. What do you think, Mr.
Yes,
Mr.
so this is where I think I can short circuit this tremendously. I think there'll be, my understanding from talking with my colleague earlier is that the Bluecrest sorting and signature verification machine was not operational. So I didn't really want new scanned images. I wanted the existing scanned images that were done on November 3rd for purposes of signature verification. So my understanding is that did not occur because the Bluecrest verification machine was not working for the 2020 general.
Judge, I'm not commenting on
Go this way. It takes the short way. Yeah.
All right, we've got someone.
It's not that much.
Do we know who that is? Okay. Mr. Alexis.
I'm not commenting on whether or not the Bluecrest machines were working. We didn't use the Bluecrest machines at that time period.
Okay, so if the subpoena as intended by Mr. Floyd is for the any images produced by this machine on this date, your response is you don't have any in your possession.
That's correct, Judge.
So they're.
Can you go ahead? Can you
Give me a second, Your Honor.
Sure. Off mute.
No, I heard you.
Take my hand.
I can have my tech guy appear on site under their tech supervision. He can write a script that can, once we scan all the files, we can have a script that automatically blocks out the date of birth. That is PII under Georgia law.
But we still have to.
Well, we're jumping back in time to the envelopes.
Right.
So on the envelopes, you're saying that you think you have a more efficient way to redact them.
Correct. I have a more efficient way, but my colleague is saying that they didn't do signature verification using the Bluecrest sorting and signature verification machine.
Correct.
Okay. And so
Is that solely the 57,000 hours estimate?
I'm sorry, are we on to the next one?
Oh, we hadn't gotten there. Okay, we're still just on the 150 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. And is that where the Blue Crest becomes relevant? I'm looking at Mr. Floyd's team.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Your Honor, the Blue Crest sorting and signature verification machine would take the ballot envelope and scan it and create an image of it. Image appears on screen with a signature exemplar, and the two are compared that way.
Okay.
So my understanding is now the Blue Crest sorting and signature verification machine was not working or
No, we didn't use it.
They did not use that.
not use it.
So
did
for
not
the
use
item you're requesting to obtain for the scans of all the outer envelopes, they would have to rescan those again is what we're hearing.
Well, it sounds like they were never scanned to begin with. And so I don't know, unless
So
they were scanned, I want the scanned version
Right.
that they had on that day.
So are there any documents in the county's possession of these items having already been scanned?
Not that I'm aware of, but I can check at headquarters and see if they do have it.
Okay, so the difference here is not so much that there's a total new rescanning, it's what was scanned and is still in your possession from that date.
Well,
Are we making the distinction here?
Nothing was scanned, Your Honor.
Okay, so we're absolutely clear. We're talking about the outer return envelopes in November 2020. Okay, so where does that leave your subpoena request?
I think, Your Honor, if we can put that to the side, like that's as an item for me to work out with the county. So I understand exactly, because I was under the impression that they had a sorting machine that did all that. So if that signature verification process was not used, I just want to be able to see so I can, when we do our audit, we can look at it and say, okay, this is what was done. And I'll see whether I actually need those or not. I'm not sure at this point.
All right. Takes us on, does this now take us to the signature exemplars and reference images, or is that the same thing?
this takes us to that new section, Judge.
The signature exemplars is under the same section,
Same issue.
same image, yeah, but no, it's a different image. It's a separate image from the ballot envelope image. One is signed on the back,
Okay.
and they use that. So,
So this whole section, you're setting that aside for now.
yes, I'm setting that aside.
Okay, then that takes us to absentee ballot application forms. Which,
Actually, no, I'm sorry. I apologize. We do want 45, or number 44, the provide all signature exemplars and reference images for all registered voters.
Okay, so that is the 57,000 hour response. And
Actually, Judge, it's just the signature exemplars. Those are digital. That should be another copying of a digital file, a massive file.
So, Judge, we do not have a file of simply signatures. We actually have them in different databases for different voters. And we're looking at 860,000 voters. And we have two different systems that we have to look in to ensure that we do find the signature. Because if it's not in one, it could be in the other. So at 860,000, and let's conservatively say we can check each system in 2 minutes, we're looking at 4 minutes per. So 860,000 multiplied by 4 minutes gives us 3 million plus minutes. You divide that by 60.
okay, a lot of
That's-
time. So what is it that you're doing in those 4 minutes exactly per voter?
We're going to check one system to see if we can find the signature. And if it's not there, we'll check the other system.
And why do we need to check either system? Why not just have both if we think they're in there somewhere?
I'm not following.
So as I'm understanding it, there's just a general database that has
Yeah.
all these signatures in it.
Well,
Why do we need to cross-reference them?
No, it's not a database of signatures. We actually have to go into the database and find the voter and look at the information and search through and find the signature wherever it may fall. And then when we get that, we, I guess, export it somewhere, have it printed. And if it's not in that database, we go look in the other database to find it. Next one.
So essentially you have a database with each voter as its own folder or file in some way. And to go in and pull out the signature image, that's what's taking the time.
Yes, sir. So for each voter, I would have to put in your driver's license number or your voter registration number. I then have to go to your profile to see if you actually have a signature on file. If in the registration database, Georgia's registration database, you don't have a signature on file, we have an in-house electronic database that we scan documents into, and we check that. There are no guarantees that we'll have all 860,000 signatures. The hope is that we will.
So first and foremost, they were saying that they didn't have signatures on these people. But this is the thing, is when you sign for your driver's license, okay, so you move to a new state, you go and you get your license renewed in that state, okay? Basically, what they're saying is, you know, the first guy was claiming they had no way to verify signatures of people who were not in their database. But this woman just turned around and changed that entire testimony by saying we have a separate database that has everybody's signature in it, and the database that she's talking about is in fact the DMV database when you go to sign for your driver's license. Because when you go to sign for your driver's license, there's that box in there in regards to registering to vote. They cannot take your paperwork at the DMV unless your signature is there. So that's one part of it. And then, but anyways, so Raffensperger is busted lying, covering it up. And
now I'll tell you, 2 weeks after Joe went and spoke to the governor, I went and spoke to the governor, and I shared 28 allegations of crimes against the citizens of Georgia by the Secretary of State in his office. I worked with Evan Myers, his deputy executive counsel, for 2 months. They didn't find any problems with the evidence we gave him. He referred it to then Inspector General Scott McAfee. I worked with Scott McAfee for 2 months. Scott called me one day and he said, you know, Bob, I'm going to go after one of these 28, 26 allegations. I said, Scott, how are you going to drop the rest of them? He says, I can only go after this one. And it was the Pro V&V audit, which we all know never took place. And then I gave Scott McAfee the open records request from the 6 counties that they said the audits took place in. And of course, the audits didn't take place in any of the counties. And guess what happened when I gave that stuff to the Inspector General? He stopped talking to me. The Inspector General is now a Superior Court judge. I went to a district attorney in the Appalachian Circuit. I shared the same information with her. Guess what? She stopped talking to me. She is now a Superior Court judge. So if any of you guys are looking on how to become a judge, I got a fast track.
Sorry, I had to admonish one of the dogs being bossy and not letting the other pups in. So Raffensperger is going to be in trouble, and so is this judge. That, basically the RICO was ignored. The RICO evidence was ignored, and that means the Georgia Secretary of State lied about the audit following the 2020 election. They never did an audit. Yep. All right. Here we go. Marjorie Taylor Greene says, this hypocrite loves guns when they protect her, but would happily strip your right to defend your family at the first chance. She's not fit for office because she doesn't understand God-given natural rights. And she's talking in reference to this article here on the New York Post. Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor's bodyguard shoots would-be carjacker outside her home. Yeah. But hey, she wants your guns taken away. Yeah. Conservative Ann says, "Is this puta for real? She can't get her hairpiece on right." There we go.
They've seen
Watch what she does through this whole interview. It's freaking hilarious.
President Biden. They've lived through his presidency. They've also seen former President Trump. They've lived through his presidency. They've heard these arguments about democracy, about the fate of the election. And yet Trump is not only winning, but winning increasingly by a larger margin. So what is the plan among Democrats to change that trajectory? It sounds like you're talking about saying and doing all the same things, but do you believe that something needs to change?
I think we need to keep working.
They've seen President Biden.
That rat's nest on her head just keeps shifting. Yep. All right. Raffensperger, the lawyer, Charlie McGowan, said ballot images don't matter when counting votes. This is false. Here's a little piece for you here.
I'm Clay Parikh. I'm a cybersecurity expert with over 20 years experience. I have a master's in cybersecurity. My undergrad's in computer science, and I've also worked in the voting system test labs for 9 years.
Have you testified before as an expert on these topics?
Yes, I have.
You attended the May 7th hearing before this board?
Yes, I did.
Have you analyzed the issue of the missing ballot images in machine count 2 in Fulton County as presented in the Rossi Moncala complaint?
Yes, I have.
Are there in fact votes for which there are no ballot images in that second machine count in Fulton County?
Yes, there are.
And how do you know that?
Because they're not in the CVR.
On the Dominion voting systems machines, is the vote counted from the physical ballot or an image of the ballot?
The vote is counted from the image. The way it happens is your paper ballot's inserted, whether it comes from an accessible machine or a regular hand-marked ballot. A picture is taken. That picture is analyzed by the software, and it's just not Dominion's, it's other vendors as well.
So that's just the inherent nature of the system.
Yes, it is.
All right, sir. Now, in light of that, how is it possible for there to be a vote counted for which there is no ballot images?
That should not happen, and should not happen because the image should be saved as part of the chain of custody when the ballot is assessed.
And the number of missing ballot images in machine count 2 in Fulton County is what?
I believe it's 17,800 and something.
It's catching up to them. It's catching up to them quicker and quicker every day. All right. Colin Rugg says, just in, crowd starts cracking up after Ben Shapiro breaks Democrat Eric Swalwell's brain after he asked a question about Project 2025. This is actually kind of funny.
Mr. Shapiro, thank you for joining us today. I think it is important that you're here as one of the leading conservative voices in the country. And the country has, in the last couple of weeks, talked a lot about and Googled Project 2025. It's one of the most Googled search terms right now. And you're not going to get any censorship from me. So I just wanted to know from your perspective, I think it would help us understand on just like a scale of 0 to 100%, how much do you support Project 2025?
I think like President Trump, I haven't looked all that deeply at Project 2025, but it seems that Democrats on this committee, sort of like Peter Pan and Tinkerbell, if they say Project 2025 enough, their presidential candidate becomes alive again.
And so, well, let's just talk about pieces of it, and I guess you can tell me if you support it. You probably want less bureaucracy, right?
I do.
I want less bureaucracy. You want more efficiency?
I do.
I want more efficiency. You want taxpayer money spent wisely?
I do. Congrats on becoming a Republican.
Yeah. My parents would be proud.
Yeah, my parents would be proud. Yeah, he just doesn't get it. Not at all. All right. illegal immigrant caught voting 5 times was sentenced to 8 years and will later be deported. Here we go.
An illegal immigrant caught voting 5 times in the U.S. is sentenced to 8 years in prison and will later be deported. A Texas jury sealing Rosa Ortega's fate after she blatantly registered to vote in multiple cities, even after checking the box on her driver's license that she was not a citizen. Her lawyers calling her punishment harsh, blaming President Trump's crackdown on illegals. An illegal immigrant caught voting 5 times in the U.S. is sentenced
5 times. 5 times. 5 times. Yeah. It's like listening to the Saturday morning commercial. Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. It's yeah. Yeah. All right. They didn't burn witches at the stake. They burnt women. Shipwreck.
I read a quote once that they didn't burn witches at the stake. They burned women. And that quote stuck with me for a long time. Women are some of the most powerful creatures on the planet. The powers that be, the powers that control the world or the universe, man, they know that. That's why they don't pour a lot of effort into women's reproductive health, women's health in general. They just dismiss the women as emotional and crazy, and they've created that stigma, primarily male doctors. And I want to preface this by saying that I'm not a modern day feminist. I'm not anti-man. If anything, I'm a traditional wife. I stay home with my kids. I cook all our meals. I am at their every beck and call. I am a homemaker. I am the traditional homemaker. I make content, but I don't work outside the home. My husband and my children are my job. That's the way it used to be, but it used to be done that way. They wouldn't allow women to work outside the home, right? Because they didn't want the women to outshine the men of the time. The thinking, well, in order to keep them down, we'll keep them home and do the dishes and Pretty Little Housewives, take some Prozac. But eventually that backfired too, because women excelled at that. Turned houses into homes. They turned children into well-meaning members of society. And families succeeded, creating generational wealth and success for everybody. Women were the constant in that. So they're like, well, we need to send them to work. We sent the men to war. We're going to send the women to work. Bonus, because we get more tax money. They created economies slowly over time that couldn't sustain itself on a one-income home. But women, they excel at working too. I'm not saying men couldn't excel being home. I'm not saying that. Again, I'm not saying that I'm anti-man. I'm saying if you take a good man and you put him out into the world, but then you take a good woman and put that woman behind that man or aside that man and push him and encourage him and keep going with him, that man will far and exceed any expectations that society has put in front of him because he knows what he has at home. And in return, he will offer that woman financial security, stability, if he's a good man, so she can be in her feminine, so she can be in her soft wife life, or she can go work and she can go and hustle, whatever, she can do whatever she wants to do and he will support her. Women are powerful. And for many generations, I think the powers that be have recognized that and have wanted to take that away. They used to just burn them at the stakes. Now they kill them slowly through toxins in their feminine products, over medicating for mental health issues, poisons in their food, poisons in the air, poisons in the water. They're chipping away at women bit by bit by bit.
Yeah, it almost sounds like they're trying to depopulate because you get rid of all the women, then you have no kids. Yeah. All right. Bartwell just dug his hole and he should stay in it. Here we go.
How about banning the abortion pill? That's part of Project 2025. Do you support that part?
I think that that's a state by state issue on a personal level. I'm
just asking you.
Sure. I'm a fully pro-life person, which means that I'm not in favor of the distribution of the abortion pill.
Banning same-sex marriage. What about that part?
I am in favor of traditional marriage between a man and a woman, and I'm perfectly fine with anyone having any sort of voluntary sexual arrangement they seek. That's a different thing from whether the government should attach benefits to that personal relationship.
But you think it's a sin to have same-sex marriage?
I mean, I'm confused. Are you asking me as a religious Jew what I think about biblically?
I'm just asking, is it a sin to be gay?
Is it a sin to be gay? I mean, how long do we have here? 2 minutes? I mean, if the basic idea is that sexual orientation is up for government regulation, I'm not in favor of the government regulating the private consenting sexual activity of adults. That is a different thing, once again, from whether the government ought to engage in actual benefits for particular sexual arrangements that adults make.
But again, just you to me, is it a sin or not?
From a religious Jewish perspective, orientation is not a sin, but activity is. That's also the same perspective of most major religions, so far as I'm aware.
And how about cutting Social Security. Do you support that part of 2025?
I'm not sure what Project 2025's position on Social Security is. I'm in favor of the restructuring of Social Security along the lines of privatization and lowering and increasing the retirement age, because you, as well as every other congressperson, knows Social Security is going to go bankrupt, and yet everyone seems to have an interest in lying about it for the next decade and a half until we have to take austerity measures or radically increase inflation or taxes.
And bans against books about slavery. Do you support that part about?
Why would I possibly be in favor of bans about books about slavery? That would be absolutely ridiculous. What I am in favor of is the idea that school libraries should be able to make decisions along the lines of what exactly is appropriate for, say, a 7th grader and whether they ought to be treated to cartoons and genderqueer. That's not quite the same thing.
And just because we found some receipts, you did say, I think homosexual activity is a sin.
Yes, I'm a religious
I'm
Jew. That's
sure
true.
there's a genetic component.
You found me out.
Orientation. But the view of all religious people I know has always been that sexual behavior is something that is up to you. And you said, I may have a desire to sleep with many women, but I do not.
I agree with me. Yes, that's true.
Congratulations on your, I'm sure it's very hard to restrain yourself. Mr. Chairman, I just want to shift to Alvin Bragg. He was supposed to be here this week, and he's not coming. And Hunter Biden was supposed to testify. Now he's not testifying. We were supposed to have votes on articles of impeachment, and we didn't. And again, we're just wondering, you guys write great press releases, but the payoff seems to never come. And so I guess we will keep waiting, and we'll do hearings like this. And finally, Chairman, you cannot yell fire in a crowded theater, and that's a restriction on speech, as you have recognized before. But you can yell theater in a crowded fire, and you all can continue to do that all you want, and we'll just waste the American people's time.
Gentleman's time has expired, and I remind him of the first rule of holes. When you're in one, stop digging. Chair recognizes.
First rule of holes is when you're in one, stop digging. Yeah. All right, here we go.
4 people are charged with allegedly running a forced labor scheme out of Collin County. The arrest came after authorities found more than a dozen young women living in the same house, forced to sleep on the floor. Fox 4's David Santendry spoke with the police chief from Princeton, joins us now live. David.
And police say there was basically no furniture inside this home at the center of the human trafficking investigation, mostly just electronics, some folding tables, and blankets.
But you never know what your neighbors got going on.
A family renting this home in Princeton, east of McKinney, is blindsided to learn what was allegedly previously happening inside.
What was going on before we even moved in here? It's kind of like really dark to think about.
Princeton Police Department is now releasing details of an investigation which led to 4 people being arrested in March after 15 women were found inside the home as alleged victims of human labor trafficking.
Like we had no idea about anything.
Seven Watkins and her siblings and mother just recently moved in. According to an affidavit, a pest control company was called to this home for possible bed bugs. Once inside, the inspector noticed each room had 3 to 5 young females sleeping on the floors. There were also large amounts of suitcases. The company contacted police.
There was tables set up with laptops and computers.
Sergeant Carolyn Crawford will not reveal what type of labor operation was happening, but says dozens of more people are involved.
I can probably say over 100 easily.
More than 100 people involved in this operation.
Yes.
And are most of those 100 people here in DFW?
Yes.
Of those 100 people, more than half are victims, according to the sergeant. As for the others, well, more arrests are expected. For now, Shandin Dasareddy, Dwaraka Gunda, Santhash Katkori, and Anil Mail are charged with trafficking of persons.
How we came across this situation was very unique.
The chief of police says his team has been working leads with federal investigators for several months.
They would unravel just a multitude of other clues and a multitude of other scenes that was going out there.
Police also say addresses in McKinney, Melissa, and other cities were allegedly involved in the forced labor operation. As for the Princeton neighborhood,
I would have never thought that something like this was going on, like a few houses down from mine.
it's 2024 right now. I mean, I can't believe that something like that's going on right now. I thought we was living in a free country. We all supposed to be free. So, you know, it's very disappointing.
For now, police will not reveal where the victims are from, how they became forced into work, or if they had opportunities to escape.
It's just very like creepy being in there.
The family now renting this home is beyond disturbed.
It's like everyone's a little startled still.
The police department seized laptops, cell phones, and electronics during those initial stages of the investigation, and it began examining all of those electronics. And afterwards, it says it was able to find evidence that an operation was happening. Again, we don't know what type of operation. They have not elaborated. But after that, that's when those arrest warrants for the 4 people in that story were made, and those 4 people were taken into custody.
Yeah. Yeah, that was in your neighborhood, huh? There, Larry? That's, yeah. And correct in your statement, there is no Project 2025 on the Trump campaign website. If you go there, you will find Agenda 47. That is Trump's. Agenda 47. There is no 20 in front of the 47. All right. Judge Merchan refused to allow Trump's legal team to put on a defense. I might have covered this yesterday already, but we can always use a refresher.
So Judge Merchan commented when ruling to limit the scope of any testimony that you would provide that, quote, there is no question that this would result in a battle of the experts, which will only serve to confuse and not assist the jury, end quote. From the standpoint of someone who practiced as a trial attorney for 34 years, I find that to be an extremely bizarre statement, because that, in fact, is the situation anytime you have a case where expert testimony is needed. In fact, I worked on a case called Nebraska versus Wyoming at one point, and Wyoming had over 25 expert witnesses in everything from hydrology to ag engineering to economics to fluvial geomorphology to all of these things, and Nebraska had something similar. Yet the judge, including the United States Supreme Court, was not excluding expert witnesses simply because there was going to be a battle of the experts. Is that your experience as well?
That is, and I would point out one thing I mentioned earlier, that there are a number of things I would have testified to that would not have gone to legal conclusions, but rather testifying about customs practices, about simply reporting dates under the law. And it appeared from the judge's rulings that even that kind of testimony would not have been allowed.
He wasn't going to allow you to testify to those things, but he allowed Mr. Cohen to sit up there and say President Trump violated federal election laws, didn't he?
Yes.
Yep. It's all going to come back to bite him in the ass, and I can't wait. Another whistleblower pilot speaks out, says concerned citizen, about the global geoengineering program. Here we go.
I would not intentionally spray my children with family with toxic aerosols, but as you must know, 80% or better do not have any family or children. Indigo pilots are chosen from the top ranks within the Air Force, Navy, and Coast Guard. Most of the pilots are, quote, hardened to humanity, unquote, and could care less about killing off unwanted or leeching aspects of America and the world. I swear to you, the majority of the pilots are like machines. I call them tanker terminators. We are paid more than any other pilot for our service, other than Air Force One pilots, who make as much or more and are kept in a dark secret world for their own protection.
Goes like this. We're gonna hit your car.
Voting on 2 things today. The first thing is the SAVE Act, which will secure federal elections, but we are also going to be voting on inherent contempt. Now, I want to talk about inherent contempt for a moment. Remember, I'm one member, and if you guys could see what I have seen over the last couple of weeks in regards to the orchestrated effort to prevent this from coming to the floor, you guys would be horrified. I do believe that starting in the House, going all the way up to the White House, that there is an absolute cover-up in regards to Joe Biden's cognitive ability and then also to holding Merrick Garland accountable. Remember, Merrick Garland is supposed to be the head head law enforcement officer, and he has broken the law. And yet there are people that are generally trying to say that he should get a pass. Why? Regular Americans will go to jail for a lot less than this, and yet he's walking free. So that's my first thing. The second thing is that we've vetted this. There's Supreme Court statute. There is case law that backs up everything that we're doing. So it is well within our constitutional authority. My question is, for those Democrats that are blatantly saying that Joe Biden is not there and cannot run, you should be supporting this. Why are you allowing your party to bully you? Voting on two things today. The first thing is a SAVE Act, which will secure federal elections, but we are also going to be voting on inherent contempt. Now, I want to talk about inherent contempt for a moment. Remember, I'm one member, and if you guys could see what I have seen over the last couple of weeks in regards to the orchestrated effort to prevent this from coming to the floor, you guys would be horrified. I do believe that starting in the House, going all the way up to the White House, that there is an absolute cover-up in regards to Joe Biden's cognitive ability and then also to holding Merrick Garland accountable. Remember, Merrick Garland is supposed to be the head law enforcement officer, and he has broken the law. And yet there are people that are generally trying to say that he should get a pass. Why? Regular Americans will go to jail for a lot less than this, and yet he's walking free. So that's my first thing. The second thing is that we've vetted this. There's Supreme Court statute. There is case law that backs up everything that we're doing. So it is well within our constitutional authority. My question is, for those Democrats that are blatantly saying that Joe Biden is not there and cannot run, you should be supporting this. Why are you allowing your party to bully you? Voting on two things today. The first thing is a SAVE Act, which will secure federal elections, but we are also going to be voting on inherent contempt. Now, I want to talk about inherent contempt for a moment. Remember, I'm one member, and if you guys could see what I have seen over the last couple of weeks in regards to the orchestrated effort to prevent this from coming to the floor, you guys would be horrified. I do believe that starting in the House, going all the way up to the White House, that there is an absolute cover-up in regards to Joe Biden's cognitive ability and then also to holding Merrick Garland accountable. Remember, Merrick Garland is supposed to be the head law enforcement officer, and he has broken the law. And yet there are people that are generally trying to say that he should get a pass. Why? Regular Americans will go to jail for a lot less than this, and yet he's walking free. So that's my first thing. The second thing is that we've vetted this. There's Supreme Court statute. There is case law that backs up everything that we're doing. So it is well within our constitutional authority. My question is, for those Democrats that are blatantly saying that Joe Biden is not there and cannot run, you should be supporting this. Why are you allowing your party to bully you? Voting on two things today. The first thing is a state.
All right. So that's a good minute from her. Yep. I'm getting ready to play some stuff that we're going to have our fair use up there running. All right. This is Adam Carolla with Newsom, Gavin Newsom.
Half of African Americans in the state of California, roughly half of Latino families have no access to a checking account or an ATM, things we take for granted. They don't have a check.
What's wrong with them?
And well, because they don't have the resources to sock those things away.
Why do we have them?
A lot of different reasons, but roughly half those families don't. And where do they
Why
end
do
up?
Armenians have them?
But where they end up is in check cashing places.
But I want to
and
know
these
why
payday
those
lenders
groups.
taking
Why
advantage.
those two groups don't have
Well,
access?
there are a lot of. It just happens to be that we can
So
talk
they're
about.
flawed?
No, they're hardly flawed, but they're struggling.
Genetically
Folks are making
flawed.
their work. Hardly, not absolutely.
But okay, so do
Absolutely
Asians have this problem?
I mean, a lot of communities have problems. A lot of whites have these problems.
Oh,
but
so
I just,
that's not just black and Hispanic.
no, but
But
I'm
why'd you
giving
bring up black and Hispanic?
because the magnitude is ominous.
But why so many of them?
It just happens to be the
Just
magnitude.
that's the way God planned it?
Not at all.
Well,
It
what
just-
happened to them?
There are a lot of issues, and that the communities are struggling. A lot
Why
of
are
new
they struggling?
immigrants. A lot of different reasons. Lack of
Hispanics have been
opportunity.
here. Blacks have been here
difficulties.
longer than we've been here.
Well, we can surmise.
What
all
about
that.
Asians? They were put in internment camps.
Yeah, in fact, it all initiated out of San Francisco, and
All
the
right.
Chinese Exclusion Act came
So
out
are they
of progressive
the
San
check cash?
Francisco.
Are they the check
a
cashing
lot
places?
of Asians certainly do.
Oh, so why don't you include
Because
them?
the only reason why is the magnitude
Well,
of
there's
the
so
problem.
many more.
The magnitude in percentage
But there's no way to
terms
figure out how that
of
happened.
Africa. We could talk about it. You know what I'm dealing with? I don't want to have a sociological debate. I
Sure,
want
why
to deal
would
with
you? You'd
reality.
have, no,
here's why.
Why would you want to do that? Because the person from the Times wouldn't write good things about you if
God,
you did that.
No, that's not the case because I
You
want to
don't
deal
wanna
with
get into
reality.
that.
No.
You want to deal with reality.
I want to
can
deal
tell
with
you
the
what
reality of people
is.
that are struggling. People are suffering. I want to deal with the problems in
Why
a
are
pragmatic
they
way.
struggling
I don't
and
want an
suffering?
idea. We can hold hands and surmise about all these
Why
underlying
are they?
reasons.
I don't want to do that.
but
I want to know why
focus
they're
on the
struggling.
challenge.
Why are they struggling?
A lot of folks are struggling because they can't find
Why
jobs.
blacks and
because
Hispanics?
they're working
Why blacks and Hispanics?
across the board, all
Why?
socioeconomic.
Okay, so everybody. is.
Everybody's struggling.
So Asians are suffering just as much as blacks.
the face of welfare is not an African American family.
So it's Asian, Jewish, it's all of them.
Caucasian. It's
okay,
a lot of
so
folks
we're all
in society.
struggling.
A lot of folks are struggling.
Okay.
He just backed Newsom into a corner that Newsom couldn't get himself out of. Yep. All right. Jesse Waters says it's day 2 of the Biden hostage crisis. Here we go.
It's day 2 of Biden's hostage crisis. And today, there were actual tears as House Democrats held an urgent come to Jesus meeting in Washington. One congressman said it felt like a funeral. Another said that's an insult to funerals. They're all starting to realize there's no easy way out.
Are you all on the same page?
No. What do you mean you're not on the same page? You're not even in the same book.
Biden's been reportedly hunkered down, working the phones, demanding money and protection. But the problem is no one's picking up the phone. A well-connected Democrat fundraiser said it's gotten so bad, some of Biden's campaign bundlers have just given up. And now it's a staring contest until someone makes the first move. The Times says it's increasingly clear that the president is unwilling to accept the reality of his situation. He's engaging in a staring contest with Democratic leaders, and he appears to be winning. The only way to persuade Mr. Biden to accept the need for new leadership is to demonstrate that the party is no longer following him. Is it a civil war or just a Cold War? It's too early to tell. And the Democrats are afraid to shoot first because they're facing mutually assured destruction either way. So the party put Biden on the clock. He has until this weekend to surrender.
Are you personally confident that he has what it takes to not only continue this election, but then to serve for another 4 years?
Well, I think that if you just wait until this weekend, there'll be more comes out. I believe that we'll be able to have a better, clear view of what's happening.
Biden doesn't come out with his hands up by Saturday. Democrats are going to have to send in the political SWAT team. Nancy Pelosi is going to come through Biden's bunker with a battering ram. Sources tell Axios that he would listen reluctantly, but he'd listen to her. Next up, Jim Clyburn, who speaks for the Black Caucus and who saved Joe in 2020. Paired with Nancy, sources says he'd move the needle. But if that doesn't work, Chuck Schumer would have to be the one to tell him it's over. Step down or risk a political slaughter down the ballot, handing Republicans both chambers and the White House. Biden's heart remains in the Senate, and hearing this from Chuck would hit home. But if that doesn't work, there's only one person who can talk Joe off the ledge: Barack. Biden knows he owes him. He made him VP, helped him beat Trump. But he also resents the Messiah for choosing Hillary instead of him in 2016. So Biden world is warning Obama world, be cautious. Barack better not come in too hot because it'll backfire, only make Biden dig in deeper. Like we said last night, it's a Chinese finger trap. The more both sides pull, the tighter it gets. Biden's current strategy is to bait the party back into his corner. He's telling donors it's time to put Trump in the bullseye. This election was supposed to be about Trump, but now it's about Biden. And he has to change that fast or it's over. But the leaking makes it impossible for Biden to get out of this doom loop. Sources tell the Wall Street Journal that Biden's whole presidency has been a cover-up. Biden once skipped out on a G7 meeting with the German chancellor because he felt fatigued. The Germans even scheduled the meeting at 6, so Biden wouldn't be sleepy. But suddenly Blinken showed up to the meeting instead of Joe and announced that Biden had to go to bed. Sorry, Olaf, it's nap time. Biden reportedly also only functions from 10 to 4, and after that, who knows?
He's sharpest before 8 p.m. So say that the Pentagon at some point picks up an incoming nuke. It's 11 p.m. Who do you call? The First Lady?
He has a team that lets him know of any news that is pertinent and important to the American people. He has someone that is decided, obviously, with his National Security Council on who gets to tell him that news.
Sources also told the Wall Street Journal that during a fundraiser, Biden couldn't even remember the word veteran and had to ask staff, what's the word when you used to serve in the military? Biden's bouncers on late night aren't protecting him anymore. That's how bad it is.
He addressed concerns about his health, stating he was fine, but then adding, "It's just my brain." Oh, good. It's just his brain. And that sound is just my sphincter clenching so tight, I think I just made a diamond.
And it's not just Colbert.
Are you telling me, you are you coming to my house and saying to my face that the United States of Bruce Springsteen's America can't hold an election better than a French? Is that what you're telling me? It's 4 months. 4 months. It's 119 days. There are contestants on The Bachelor who haven't even met yet that will get married and divorced between now and the election. We have nothing but time.
A famous publicist once said, in politics, you can win when you're feared, but you'll never win when you're ridiculed. Joe Biden's now being subjected to hellacious ridicule and has never been feared. Can the president survive an election campaign without air cover from the press? Here's 45.
Well, they cover for him, and they still are sort of covering, but now it's getting very difficult to do that. And, you know, it looks to me like he may very well stay in. He's got an ego, and he doesn't want to quit. He doesn't want to do that. It just looks to me like that's what he wants.
Donald Trump fought a civil war before he was president and fought off a coup while he was president. Now he's sitting pretty with a unified party, and the Democrats plot their own insurrection. Trump's odds get better every day. He's the first Republican in a quarter century heading into the conventions ahead in the polls. Look at that. And just breaking, the Cook Political Report announced that 6 key states moved toward Trump in the Electoral College. Democrat senators are looking at polling and having aneurysms. One lawmaker said if they stick with Biden, it could be a weekend at Bernie's situation. Now, when a dead man holds you hostage, it says more about the hostage than the dead man.
That was a nice piece there, Jesse. You're doing some good work. Still got questions about you, but you are appearing to be a little more forthcoming than most of the other journalists that are out there. So, all right, all of them.
Imagine never being in politics before your whole life, and then you run for president, and then you win, okay? Never been in politics, don't quite understand at the moment exactly how it all works, but you get in, and over the course of the years, you get to see all the classified information, all the secrets, all the corruption, all the crimes. And then you have a guy that comes out and leaks all this horrendous evidence of the massive crimes of all these criminals of the past. And now you have all the proof and all the evidence of all of these people that sold out America, that are blackmailed, that hurt children, that sold secrets, that killed people, sold out America, hate our country, greedy. Imagine being that man. Why do you think they need Trump gone? Because they know that he knows everything they've done. And they're all going down. All of them.
Yep. And he knows that they know that he knows that they know. Yeah. How about that? This guy here is a fucking piece of work. All right. Breaking, this is graphic. This disturbing and absolutely heartbreaking footage of a man that kept throwing a tan pit bull down 3 flights of stairs while the dog is crying and whimpering in fear as if this has happened before. Some of you may want to turn your head. Get a good look at this guy. Yeah. Never, ever would I do that to one of my dogs. Never. Never. Ever. Ever. And if I ever see anybody doing that, I will drop them downstairs. That dude should be in jail. Absolutely be in jail. That just happened to be somebody's ring phone that caught that. You know? Yep. All right. Matt, here's Matt Gaetz and Ben Shapiro. Here we go.
Mr. Patel, are you part of an organization that uses market power for censorship?
No, sir.
And how much advertising capital do you deploy annually?
How much marketing investment do we spend?
Yeah.
850 million a year.
And you said less than 1% of that in the news area, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's because really your brands don't want to be involved in these caustic news disputes or political disputes. They want to be apolitical in the presentation of their brand. Am I understanding that testimony correctly?
So we serve 90% of American households with our portfolio.
It's a fascinating answer, just not to my question. Is the reason you de-emphasize news because you want to be apolitical?
We target our investment to address the consumers that buy our brands.
Okay, are you doing so for political reasons or apolitical reasons?
We don't do it for any political reason.
Okay, so then why are the vice presidents of your company trying to shape the way Facebook limits view of a Trump advertisement?
So I'm not sure what the intention of that communication was, but that's
I do. It was to get the Trump ad taken down. It's pretty clear. You had 2 vice presidents, Rob Master and Luis DeComo, who were pressuring Facebook to utilize Facebook's policies to take down a Trump ad. So it's just hard to believe that your goal is to avoid politics when not some intern at your company, but the vice presidents at Unilever are writing Facebook saying, we want you to take this Trump ad down and apply these policies to do it.
So I'm not sure what the intention of communication was, but
okay, I'll tell you what, I'll read you the communication. It's 2 words. It's your vice president to GARM when they were trying to get the Facebook ad taken out. It said, honestly reprehensible. So you're using this $800 million plus power that you have over the marketplace. Facebook is craving your advertising dollars. And you have 2 vice presidents hammering Facebook to take down a Trump ad about whether or not Joe Biden should have his ear inspected for an earpiece. That was what the ad was about, that you all found so reprehensible.
So respectfully, I'm not sure that word was done by a Unilever person.
You're okay. So Mr. DeComo didn't work for Unilever?
He sits on the. If I did my homework right, I think that came from the GARM, Rob.
Oh, Rob Rankowitz.
Yes.
And you are member entities to GARM. You pay GARM. You guys are GARM. I mean, as Mr. Jewell said, you guys you have to have tools in order to help you place your ads. So you go fund GARM, and then here your vice presidents are commiserating with GARM over the fact that Facebook won't remove this. I guess, Mr. Shapiro, when we look at these big advertising platforms and they're hearing the people with the advertising dollars hammer them with this ideological tilt, what does that do to the marketplace for ideas?
Obviously, it shuts down the marketplace of ideas, which is largely the intent. And one of the things that I've heard from some of the Democratic members of the committee today is an extraordinary amount of projection. projection wherein they suggest that Republican members of the committee are trying to shut down free speech by trying to get answers to questions about the kind of political pressures that are being put on social media companies, for example. But it's been Democrats who for years have been spending their time trying to pressure social media companies into doing their bidding by limiting the types of information that are available to the public and how that information is actually distributed. One of the things that's worth noting here is that it's not just a matter of advertising dollars flowing. The way that it works on social media is that if you are demonetized, then the reach of your actual content is also limited by the same social media companies.
Do you think the frequency of those demonetization rises when you have vice presidents of companies at Unilever trying to hammer entities like Facebook into taking down Trump ads?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no question that when you have internal pressures put on social media companies to take down right-wing material, that has an impact on the reach of right-wing messaging. There's just no question.
And I guess I don't mind when Democrats say they don't like conservative speech, or we get to say we don't like some of their speech. That's how this works. But it's when the business community colludes and utilizes market power to shape the way social media companies or websites disseminate information, that the public doesn't even get to see that debate and engage it. And I think the fact that it's clandestine is actually even more corrosive to the values that undergird.
That's absolutely true. The complete lack of transparency with which GARM treats both the member companies as well as the consuming public is one of the major problems. If they simply wish to levy a boycott against a right-wing source, they should simply say that's what they're doing. Hiding behind fake standards in order to project objectivity is a major problem in transparency for the market.
Yeah. Yep. More stuff about Zuckerbucks is coming. And it's going to, and his whole team there at Facebook, it's going to be a hot one. Nature Girl says Earth portals and stargates, and we need something to unclutter all that stuff in our head. So let's confuse ourselves with something else for a change.
It appears that a lot of this activity and a lot of these tunnels congregate close to this Four Corners area. Now, there's well-known stone-based stargates, is what the ancient Indians call them, and now the modern Indians are saying these are where their relatives used to go and put their heads in and actually chant some words and disappear, and then some of them will return. Last summer, I went to Arizona to see the Grand Canyon. We actually hired a helicopter and a guide to go down there because I wanted to find out if I can see any of these ancient mysteries that people have been talking about. And we landed on this Indian reservation down inside the canyon, and there's a special area that was cordoned off. So I said to the guy, I said, why can't I come over here? I don't understand. I don't see anything dangerous. He said, because NASA has taken over this part of the canyon. A lot of these areas that the military will lock down are also very strong vortexes, which basically are nodes in this cosmic web Stargate system. These are places that the military lock down because they don't want you to see what's coming and going through these gates.
So I saw that one a couple of days ago, and I was glad that somebody else ended up putting it up. And I really like Billy Carson. And I've always been a big Stargate fan, whether it was SG-1, Stargate Universe, the entire Stargate series, and I'm looking at our world today and at that TV series, or the multitude of the TV series, and finding just so many things that are so connective. And I'm like, well, maybe there is something to that, All right. Joe embarrasses our country once again. Here we go.
I realize I was talking to your wife.
What?
I was talking to your wife.
If you're anything like me, you're probably wondering, what the fuck did Joe Biden just say? Let's try that again.
You guided this alliance through one of the most consequential periods in its history. I realize I was talking to your wife. I personally asked you to extend your service. Forgive me.
Joe Biden was speaking to members of NATO today in Washington, D.C., and Now, he let a few things loose, but this might be the worst. The intention was that Joe Biden would get to stand in front of world leaders and prove that he's cognitively fit to serve as president of the United States. And what did he do? Well, he embarrassed us once again. Thanks, Joe. Fucking idiot.
I think every video about Joe Biden needs to end with fucking idiot. I hate to say it, you know. And I've been trying to be really, really good about dropping F-bombs and everything else, you know, because we do podcast up to Q streaming. Now, I have no idea if anybody has even ever watched one of our podcasts live on Q streaming. I hope they are, you know. It'd be great if they would hop onto YouTube every once in a while, drop a comment and say, hey, I'm watching you on Q streaming. I appreciate the information that you're giving us. You're a hell of a lot better than Fox News or better than CNN or better than MSNBC. You know, that would be nice, but, you know, I haven't heard anything, so I have no idea. However, somebody did watch it because they took the Q streaming away. And Dave got notice that the reason that they took it away was because both he and I both dropped quite a few F-bombs during one of the podcasts. And he ended up contacting Q streaming. And he said, wait a minute. He says, well, if you're going after us for that, then you better start deleting movies, other channels, everything all the way down the line. You better be censoring every single channel that drops an F-bomb, or it says any other cuss word. And I say cuss. I didn't say curse. I said cuss. There's a difference between cussing and cursing. Cussing is you're a fucking asshole. Cursing is I hope that your bowels fall out through your butthole while you got your fingers in a hex mode and things like that. There's a difference. You know, just, you know, and I guess the guy was the vice president that got back in touch. Well, I'm trying to do my best in not swearing. Okay. I'm trying to do my best, but I'm sure that 12-year-old daughter has heard worse than anything that I've said on this channel so far, except for maybe the whole thing just now. It's, you know, but you understand where I'm coming from. And so I guess it was the vice president of Q streaming that contacted Dave and said that they're restoring the channel. And that, you know, basically Dave was right. You know, you're stepping on my constitutional right. Q streaming is not affected by the FCC. Okay. Now, if I was on the radio and dropped an F-bomb, okay, then the FCC could come in. And honestly, I don't think that they should be able to. I think that, you know, the FCC should stay out of all broadcasts whatsoever, other than to maybe the FCC could be the ones that say, okay, yes, you're giving 100% disinformation. And then we would turn around and we would see CNN disappear. We'd see MSNBC disappear. We'd see all these channels disappear because of that. Okay. And, you know, maybe that's what the FCC should be involved in, and not everything else to do with, you know, you know, do you understand what I mean? It's, you guys get it. You guys get it. All right. All right. I don't, you know what? I really don't like Alex Jones. I don't trust Alex Jones. You know, sorry, as soon as you said fuck Donald Trump, that was it. You were done, Alex. You were done. But you were kind of done before that, because Q said that you're no good. Why would I believe Q? Because everything that Q has pointed out has been factual. Everything the accused stated was going to happen has happened. Our deltas prove that every single day. And this is the thing is, I can't even discount what Dave's first podcast in regards to the Q board was, and that was the arrest of Hillary Clinton, right? And Trump has even alluded to it. Okay? I think that Hillary was arrested. And that we have seen multiple stand-ins for her since that period of time. You know what I mean? I really do. I honestly, I think she's been arrested. I believe that she was they used doubles until they knew that they had her under control and that she was going to do what they said. And that is, you know, that's just my own personal opinion. Okay. I think that that's what happened. I think that she does make appearances because it is important in order to sometimes bring about certain points. But I think that a lot of stuff was pre-recorded as well. You know, hey, Ghetto Man, how you doing? He says, I taught my kids that there is only one cuss word, and that is saying the Lord's name in vain. All other words are subject to context and tone and emotions behind them. I like that. I like that. I'm going to throw that up on the screen for a minute so that everybody can read that. I think that that's good. I think that's a really good statement. I've taught my kids. He's taught his kids, okay, that there is only one cuss word, and that is saying the Lord's name in vain. All other words are subject to context and tone and emotions behind them. I like that. I really like that. And I think that is, to me, that is excellent parenting. I think that is great parenting. It's getting the child to understand that your relationship with God and Christ is ultimate, whereas your relationship with a person that you bump into or that you run into once in a while or is a pain in your ass, you know, in everyday life. And ass is not a bad word. It's in the dictionary. And it's in the Bible. Okay, they wouldn't have put it in there if it wasn't, you know. Okay, some people can be effing assholes. Okay, we get that. Everybody's got one. They got their own opinion, and some of them stink, and some of them don't. Okay, but the fact of the matter is that in every situation in life, there's going to be times where you want to say, Jesus, you know, and I'm not saying that to disrespect Yeshua in any way, shape, or form. Okay. I'm saying it as an example. Okay. You know, or, you know, when, okay. So the term goddamn, okay. Now, let me tell you, actually, the first time that I think that I ever heard that phrase consistent was when a song came out called The Pusher. I believe it was put out by a band called Steppenwolf. I think it was the name of the band. And it was because one of the band members, a family member, overdosed on heroin. And this would have been Vietnam era, you know, 60s, 70s. Okay. And, you know, I never really put, you know, two and two together. And we're going to talk about Ronnie in just a couple of minutes, Lisa. I'll be filling everybody in on something that's going to be going on later today. But now, you know, there have been times in my life that I've said it without thinking, you know. But now when I say it, I make sure that I add what I'm damning, okay? The rock that I just twisted my ankle on or broke my toe on, or this nail gun for not having the air pressure necessary to put a nail all the way in, or something like that. You know, it's using it in a vernacular way instead of using it in a disrespectful way. It's talking about an object, not a person. Okay, because I don't think that I don't want my God to be a damning person on another person. You know what I mean? It's one thing to damn an object, okay, but it's another to damn a human being, unless you're a child molester, child trafficker, sex trafficker, murderer, or a pedophile. But believe me, when I say it, I make sure that I include those that do those things, because the Lord said it'd be best just tie a millstone about your neck and cast yourself into the depths of the ocean than what I have planned for you in the end, you know? Just, yeah. So, yeah, the English language is a funny thing, but Alex Jones, I don't trust. So I'm gonna stay away from this one. Yeah, I'm gonna stay away from it. This happened up in Seattle. Tourist was savagely beaten by 2 female suspects. Yep, here we go.
They were just punching on her and holding her down on the asphalt.
A broad daylight beating for a pointless reason. It happened Saturday afternoon in West Seattle. I spoke to the victim over the phone. She doesn't want to use her name because she's terrified. She was in town from Yakima to visit her father, who's dealing with a brain injury after having 3 tumors removed. The victim tells me this was all because she accidentally cut off the suspects at the intersection.
They were right on top of me, and I was really scared I was going to get run over by my own vehicle.
The video shows the victim's car roll down the street, where it crashed into another car. Then the suspects speed off. But witnesses say they did not go far. Someone on scene sent me this video of the Range Rover parked by Alki. You can see it is missing the front license plate and still has a piece of paper in the windshield, like the car in the assault video.
It's disheartening that Seattle police didn't show up in a timely manner. We could have got those girls. They were a mile away on the beach partying.
You responded faster than they did, and that was on Saturday. It's now Monday. I'm shocked.
Wendy Carrington is one of the Good Samaritans who tried to stop the assault. These look like the folks?
Oh yeah, they had the parking ticket on the front of their Land Rover.
I have pictures of both suspects. That Carrington confirmed. Pictures that the 22-year-old victim herself took after the assault. But Seattle police will not say if these are the suspects or not. They tell me they're still investigating, so we can't show them. The victim tells me Seattle police's response is making the entire incident that much more difficult to deal with.
Nobody's contacting me. Nobody's reaching out. Nobody is wanting to find these girls except for me.
And it's sad that this is the state of our city, that I have to worry, you have to worry, we all have to worry that we could be victimized, and then, you know, the criminals are emboldened. They can just run around knowing there's no accountability for their actions.
That 22-year-old victim tells me she was in the hospital for hours, then had to drive all the way back to Yakima in her damaged truck by herself. She says that it was traumatic after this incident. Seattle police say they are investigating and are asking anyone with information to contact them. But I spoke to Carrington, that Good Samaritan from the story today, who told me she waited on hold when she tried to get in touch with investigators and then was hung up on. Reporting here in Seattle, I'm AJ Janovo.
All right. So in regards to Ronnie, tonight, Ronnie, myself, Dave Snedeker, and I believe Slow Country may be making an appearance. He probably won't be able to stay on long. He's been trying to concentrate on family. and things going on at home that he's taking care of. So it may be on for a little bit, or just pop on for an appearance and everything. But today is Ronnie's birthday. So those of you who want to tune in tonight, I am going to re-podcast that at the same time. But I'd like to get as many people over to Ronnie's channel as possible. It's, on an average, he normally gets about 40 to 60 people. I would love the expression on his face if more than a couple of hundred showed up. I think that would be awesome. I think that would be incredible. A great birthday present for him. And even I think you guys would like him. Those of you that don't know Ronnie York he's an older gentleman, lives down in the Texas area. He's battling lung cancer right now. He's doing pretty dang good. And Ronnie and I became pretty fast friends. And he does podcasts with Steve Harloa. They cover a lot of different things. He's of a mind that everything's completely done already. We just have to. Can I drop the link? Can you post at the top of the chat, please? Oh, you're an admin. You should be able to pin a comment up there. Right click on it and see if you can pin it. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to click YouTube right now, okay, and watch what happens to the stream because of it, okay. I'm telling you, this is bad. What YouTube's doing, and what CenturyLink is doing in throttling. Yeah, you see how? Wow. It's going super. Oh, I got the first row of pictures just came up. First row of pictures. And what am I trying to do here? Oh yeah, I need to pin. Let me see my channel and wait another minutes while YouTube loads that. Ridiculous. Even when I go, other people's podcasts, it's like this. It's ridiculous. And live. Where's today's podcast at? Where's today's podcast at? Okay. And let's see how long it takes for the chat to load. And I can't see what you guys are saying right now because there's no chat on the YouTube side yet. So I can't see you there yet. We all live in a yellow submarine. A yellow submarine. A yellow submarine. We all live in a yellow submarine. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, chat just came up. And Ronnie and Hawk Live. Let's see. Oh, I need to get the dots. There we go. And now it disappeared. In message. All right. Now let me get ready. There we go. See what I mean? That just took 4.5 minutes out of our 5 minutes out of our podcast. Just doing that. Yep. All right. Colin Rugg says, new arsonist catches himself on fire while trying to destroy a business in Richmond, Canada. I'll find out. Yep. He just set himself on fire. Let's start from the beginning again. Let's pour some gas on there and there we go. There we go. And this is what's funny is his mask now catches on fire and he has to rip it off. Thus, there's his face. There's his face. Yeah. Yeah. So I think they'll catch them. Yep. Joe Rambo says, boom, where we go when we go all. So I pose the question. How do the naysayers reconcile? Why would Trump end his rallies repeatedly with a song that is a direct reference to Q if it is all just a LARP? Nothing can stop what is coming.
To plant the stars and stripes on the face of the moon. Together they made America into the single greatest nation in the history of the world.
Why would he? Seriously, why would he consistently, constantly, and continuously use that song to close out every one of his rallies? If it was a war. You know, we've all heard his speeches, so I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I just wanted to make that point. You know, I thought it was a pretty good one. All right, Real Mac Report. Former New York Judge John H. Wilson, you are presiding over a case where your daughter is benefiting and you made political. Well, I'll just let Matt Gaetz do the asking. Here we go.
Judge Wilson, I just want to ask you a precise question. Was there ever a case that you were presiding over where you had a family member economically benefit from the notoriety of the case?
No, never.
You sure you don't want to take some more time on that? Think about it.
I don't need more time. I know that for a fact.
Well, I mean, if that had ever arisen, would you have allowed a family member to make money off the notoriety of a case?
I would have recused myself from the case.
Huh. Well, it's just interesting because we had Attorney General Garland who was, spent a good amount of time on the bench, and I asked him the same question, and, he said that he wouldn't answer it because it was obviously a reference to what had gone on in New York. I mean, I thought he might could have answered it, but I mean, when you look at what happened in New York, does it concern you that the judge in that case seemed to have a family member who was economically leveraging the notoriety of the case?
It greatly concerned me, but not so much from the perspective of the ethical violation that would be apparent, because that judge did get an ethical opinion from the Judicial Ethics Committee in New York that exonerated him from any wrongdoing in listening to the case when his daughter was benefiting. What I was concerned about was the appearance of impropriety. When I sat on the bench, sometimes I would get a report from probation or some other organization, and they would hand it to me in an envelope. And I made certain to open up that envelope and show everybody that it was a report that I was looking at, because I didn't want there to be the appearance of impropriety that I'm receiving an envelope from someone in the courtroom. The concept is the same here. You're presiding over a case where your daughter is benefiting and where you've made political contributions in small amounts, but it's irrelevant, the amount. But you've made contributions to the political opponent of the defendant before you. These are the very essence of the appearance of impropriety. And I feel strongly that Judge Merchan should have recused himself on that basis.
Just simple as can be, Mr. Chairman. Straightforward answer to a straightforward question. I wish we could have gotten that from the Attorney General. I yield back.
An honest judge. I can't go into this one because it talks about a particular jibber jabber and a certain M to the R to the N to the A things, you know, those things. This was sent on to Donovan Lamb, though. And, you know, it's, you know, kind of crazy. Well, let's.
Yeah, so I know a kid who I'm not going to say his name, but he works out at a feedlot in Nebraska.
Okay.
And he said that they got bought out 2 years ago by a company. So they were kind of keeping up good animal husbandry. Obviously, they did vaccines and antibiotics and hormones and stuff like that. And that's what they do. That's fine. But anyways, they got bought out by this company. He said that they got within the first year they were using 10 more vaccines.
Okay, I'm going to stop that there because they're going to start going into the more in-depth about it, and we don't want to get in no trouble for that. Because we know that YouTube is paid by the WHO to censor anybody who talks about anything medical. Yeah, they're paid. Yeah, YouTube, I said that. And you ever notice that YouTube never goes after any of their podcasters? They just censor them, right? You know, so instead of suing me for saying that, and then me being able to go through discovery to learn exactly how much YouTube is in fact paid to go by the WHO, you know, they would, you know, they would lose their business. Yeah, they would lose their shit. Nature Girl says, the sun, oh, the sun.
Yes, talk about this. Many religions had the religion based on the sun. And I always wondered, how do you use the sun? What is this all about? And what people don't understand is the sun is a portal. So I'll just tell you this example. I had this client come in and she wanted to lose weight. And she tried so many different things. I mean, literally, she went on a juice fast and the weight wouldn't budge. So obviously there was something going on. And usually when a client wants to lose weight, their subconscious will say, oh, the weight acts as like a protection. You know, that's usually the case. And if you can figure out a way to feel protected, the weight will come off very easily. And the subconscious needs to understand this, and so does the conscious mind. Well, this wasn't the case. The higher consciousness said she needs to go outside without her contacts. And so that was a little surprising. I asked, what do you mean? And they said, she needs to be exposed to unfiltered sunlight because all humans need a little unfiltered sunlight, because ultimately what's available to humanity right now is the power of this intelligence coming from the portals of the sun. It goes through the unfiltered eyes straight to the pineal gland, and it unlocks the human power. It's fascinating.
You remember about 6 months ago, maybe 7 months ago, it was getting ready to come up for the eclipse, and we saw a few different guys that said that no, when they look at the eclipse, they just look at it with their eyes. They're sun gazers. They spend a certain amount of time every day actually just going out and looking directly at the sun. You know, at first it can only be for a short period of time, and they have to condition the eyes in order to look at it for long periods of time. And the guy says, I spend 3 hours a day looking directly at the sun. You know, so yeah, it makes it some valid points there. Some valid points. All right, here we go. I'm enjoying the shit out of this, says Carly Bonet.
You that someone like George Clooney, who was just with the president, says you need a new nominee.
So sorry.
If Clooney has concerns about President Biden's mental fitness, do you?
I don't have concerns.
Democrats in Hollywood are calling for the president to step aside. Do you think he should?
Yeah, I think that's a decision for the president.
pretty remarkable there.
You that
Yeah. George Clooney came out and said, we need a different guy to run for president. Oh, yeah. That's a little bit much. All right, let's go to Tom Fenton. Here we go.
We noticed one of my intrepid colleagues at Judicial Watch noticed at DC was going to have a special event educating illegal aliens on how to vote. So we asked for and obtained the document. And this is the document that shows they used to educate illegal aliens on how to steal the votes of citizens, legally steal them. We noticed one of my intrepid colleagues at Judicial Watch noticed at DC was going to have a special event educating illegal aliens on how to vote. So we asked for and obtained the document. And this is the document that shows they used to educate illegal aliens on how to steal the votes of citizens, legally steal them.
Yeah. I'm telling you. It seems a lot of people are asking the question now. First, it was only Laura Loomer who was questioning them and getting turned down for answers, and now this is something else. Here's ABC reporter Rachel Scott.
Do you believe that him waiting so long to make this decision?
I'm not making any comments in the hallway about the fate of our nation. Okay?
Are you concerned whether or not he can win in November?
I think he can win.
Do you believe he should run for re-election?
I'm not speaking English to you. I'm not going to be making any statements about any of that right now in the hallway.
Well, then bring me in your office and let's do an interview, Nancy Fancy. Yeah. You're in our halls. You're in our building. Our building. The one we pay for. Do your fucking job. Period. All right. Shadow of Ezra says Zelensky openly declares his desire to kill Russian President Vladimir Putin when questioned about it at the NATO summit. Oh, yeah. Here we go. And this is in English.
I'm the father, I'm the president. It's so difficult to lose people. It's so difficult and to lose children. And of course, you see these children are dying or that. So you want to kill Putin at this moment. And of course, all of them, all of us, we want it very much. Really drinking something. He's not thinking. For him, it doesn't matter what in Ukraine. So the attack was, what is the tragedy? It was not attack on, and something was not good with a missile or something. No, the missile was exactly to the hospital. It's not the first time.
Do you think that it was meant to strike the day?
I'm the father, I'm the president.
Yeah. Well, we watched that missile, and that was a NATO missile, not a Russian missile. So I think you're a little bit out there, Pally boy. Yeah. Yeah. Worse than McCarthy, Speaker Johnson implores Representative Luna to hold up on her inherent contempt resolution against A.G. Garland, who is currently holding two top Trump officials in jail for the same crime he committed. Yeah. I'm not going to go into that one. I just wanted to share that with you. Cat Turd says, bye-bye, John Deere. As you know, reveal John Deere sponsoring sickening DEI wokeness as they fire American workers and move factories to Mexico. What? Let's see if we can get to this video. Where is the video? Is that the only one? Okay, so this was Robbie Starbuck, who put this out.
All right, y'all, it's time to expose John Deere. As many of you know, we had a very big win recently with Tractor Supply where we got them to drop all their woke policies. Well, I regret to inform you that John Deere, another company that relies on conservative customers, has also gone woke. This page you see behind me is their personal pronoun policy. They encourage employees to use pronouns in all communication. And I'm just warning you now, you're going to want to strap in because this is going to be a long video and, in my opinion, much worse than Tractor Supply. But let's continue. This is an event that John Deere sponsored called Capital City Pride's Little Rainbow Run. It was for kids as young as 3 years old to engage in pride. And side note, I don't care if you're gay or straight, kids should not be celebrating what type of sex you like. It's weird, it's creepy. Here's a fun photo we found on LinkedIn. Yes, this is John Deere employees being trained on the genderbread man. Yes, the genderbread man. If you're not familiar with that, it's the whole concept that basically gender is completely fluid. There's no such thing as your biological sex. You just are whatever you think you are. So much like Tractor Supply used to have, John Deere has what are called ERG groups. These are a way to divide people on identity lines. Pure identity politics. They separate you by race, sexuality, or any number of these things. This is a post about their rainbow ERG group, which, if you guessed was their gay group, you were correct. You're going to want to see the logos that were made for it. As much as I wish I was joking, I am very much not joking. These are real logos that were posted on LinkedIn. Which, side note, John Deere is much more open about their belief system on LinkedIn than they are on other social medias. I wonder why that is. But you know what? We'll get back to their stuff on LinkedIn in a minute. Let's go check on their diversity, equity, inclusion page. By the way, Bill Gates is their largest shareholder. Are you getting super conservative vibes yet from John Deere? On this page from John Deere's website, they note that the finance team really took things to the next level in 2020 when they said their diversity efforts were just simply not enough. So how did they up the game? Let me show you. One of many ways they upped the game on DEI was for the financing team leaders to do something called a 21-day United for Equity challenge through United Way. So I decided I should take the 21-day challenge. But before I show you what I went through for a few hours, and yes, you should feel sorry for me because I did have to go through the full 21-day thing in a couple of hours. Just note that they are promoting this accounting and finance team as their promotion of inclusive hiring practices and that they're leading the way with a diversity, equity, and inclusion mindset. So this is what apparently they want from employees. In this 21-day challenge, it was recommended to me that I read Ibram Kendi's How to Be an Anti-Racist. In this section here, it says that racism is something that we all carry within ourselves. As a result, we must unlearn biased and racist ideas to replace them with tools and actions that are centered around equity, empathy, and solidarity. Here's some stuff you should know about Ibram Kendi. Kendi believes that capitalism and racism are inextricably linked, and you must be an anti-capitalist to be an anti-racist. But enough about Kendi. Here's another one of the challenges I received as part of that 21-day equity challenge. It says, read Awake to Woke to Work, Building a Race Equity Culture, essentially a book about bringing wokeness to work. My other options during that challenge were to review Racial Equity Tool's new glossary of racial equity terms with over 60 terms and new definitions. I mean, this is really the changing of language to try to subvert normalcy. That's what it is. Just so you know, communists have always done this. Another challenge option I received was to listen to the podcast episode, Bias Isn't Just a Police Problem, It's a Preschool Problem. No, I'm not joking. I wish I was. And just when we thought we were done with Ibram Kendi, here he comes. He's back again, and they're discussing his book, Anti-Racist Baby. Yes, that is the children's book about anti-racism, which again means anti-capitalism to Ibram Kendi. This 21-day challenge also refers to Jacob Blake as a victim. And in case you forgot who Jacob Blake is, let me remind you. Police believe Jacob Blake was kidnapping children and stealing a car at the time, and Blake had a knife in his hand when he was shot. He had just recently done almost the same thing, taking a car and money, but was charged with just sexual assault in that instance and was wanted at the time that this incident took place for that sexual assault. When I was recommending a book about Black transgender people, the first thing that popped in my mind, by the way, tractors. That was, I mean, it immediately links together for me. You know, I don't know about you. It was also recommended to me that I listen to a podcast series called Seeing White to discover the history of how the concept of whiteness came to be. And yes, it is completely derogatory against white people. This 21-day equity challenge from United Way also recommended that I watch the 2018 video Deconstructing White Privilege by Robin DiAngelo. Again, another far left figure. You guys wanting to buy a John Deere tractor yet? This challenge also listed white privilege and, yes, Christian privilege as the 5 most common types of privileges. No, they don't mean that in a nice way. You'd be forgiven, though, if you were totally confused by this, seeing as the same challenge also tells you that race and racial identity are social constructs, in which case I'm not sure how whiteness exists. They never really explained that. But they did tell me 28 common racist attitudes and behavior, which included believing in reverse racism, colored blindness, treating everybody the same, or individualism. Also racist, asking a person of color for help. You should be asking white people. But don't only ask white people, because that is also racist, as you see in number 24. Also racist, bending over backwards to help. Shouldn't do that. Also racist. There was a whole lot more crazy, but that's a short summary of that 21-day challenge from United Way. And that was promoted on the John Deere website, that the finance team did that. And apparently they love when employees do things like this, because they've given millions to United Way since then. And I'm sure right now you guys are all itching to know about the journey that John Deere employees have as Rainbow Allies. So watch this video. I'm at least pretty sure none of them are hostages, but you decide.
DEI is no longer an option. It's a business imperative if we want to maintain our leadership in the marketplace and continue to attract great talent and retain the talent.
I'm learning each day how different we all could be and how many unconscious biases are there at work and how we have to be cautious about them.
Now, why is all of this happening? Because there's much more, and we have a lot to expose. This is going to be coming out over the course of the next few weeks, at the very least. But we need to point out, it seems like all of this has started to happen under CEO John May. John May, since he's been there, has overseen all of these woke policies coming forward, the embrace of DEI, which is just inappropriate. We don't seek our values to be forced on anybody else. We just want neutral workplaces and neutral businesses to buy products from. We don't need your politics or your social values. We just want to have good products, good customer service. That's it. So John has a choice to make, and that's his choice. He's either going to double down on these crazy policies, or he's going to recognize that they are diametrically opposed to the values of his customers. I hope that he chooses to get rid of these crazy policies and do the right thing like Tractor Supply, so we can bring America back to sanity. And I don't know about y'all, but I think John Deere would be in a much better position if they were more focused on the core business instead of DEI and woke policies, because they just had to do mass layoffs and have announced a production shift to Mexico. I can't think of anything that's a larger betrayal of the American worker than taking jobs to Mexico while forcing this DEI down their throats. It's a violation of so many of your employees' values and your customers' values to push this woke Trojan horse for leftism. It is time for a change to bring America back to sanity. And that is what our exposés are going to continue to do, is put pressure on corporate America to tell the truth about the values they're espousing, to tell the truth about how the corporate equality index is influencing them. Because again, this is a company, John Deere, with a 95 out of 100 from their CEI score at the Human Rights Campaign. If you've had enough and you've been a John Deere customer or thinking about becoming one, there's their customer service phone number at corporate headquarters. Call them, not your local people, okay? Your local people are not the problem here. Your local dealer is likely just as opposed to this as you are. Feel free to let them know, because they run it up the chain. But call this number right here for customer service and let them know how you feel. Also, if you want to email, you can email publicrelations@johndeere.com and let them know how you feel about this. That's it for now, but there will be much more soon.
Imagine John Deere getting a phone call from a bunch of different people, but just one person saying, well, you know that $4 million that we had slated to do a project with y'all and buy all our heavy equipment, for our operators from, well, we decided to go with another company because we don't like your DEI. We don't like the fact that John Deere has gone woke. We also don't like the idea that you're now shipping your company into Mexico, because what's going to happen is Donald Trump's going to come into office and there's going to be tariffs so big on those John Deere that they'll never sell one. It's that simple. It is absolutely that simple. So, yes, Dave does put his up on Rumble as well. However, we are guests on Ronnie's. That's why I'm trying to get everybody to follow that link over. We will be putting it up on X as well. He doesn't have an X account. So those of you that are on X, of course, you're where you're at is going to be fine. But YouTube people, I want to try and get as many of you guys over to Ronnie's channel tonight for that as possible. It's his birthday, and I think that would be a great thing for him to get a bunch of new listeners, even if it's for a night, but I think a lot of people will end up going back and following him because he does some, he's got a pretty sound mind on him. He's an average country boy, kind of fella, and he's got his thoughts and what he thinks is going on and everything else. And yeah. All right. Chanel Rion, OAN, One American News, says Kash Patel on Kamala, the world salad czar.
Right. I don't see Biden ever, stepping down on his own accord, which leads us to wonder what Kamala's up to. I mean, is she actually in charge of anything at this point?
Yeah, she's the czar for word salad. And she is the king or queen, I should say, of disinformation. I mean, literally, she was put in charge of the border. That might be Joe Biden's biggest disastrous failure of his presidency. So I don't want her in charge of Fisher-Price toy animals. I want her nowhere near the White House. And if that's what the Democrats have coming in, all right, I think Donald Trump is going to have a good time defeating their policies with her in charge.
Right. I don't see Biden.
Yeah. The word salad czar. George says, breaking: Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry just vetoed $1 million in state funds. That's right. These were funds that were going to Catholic charity that was using the money to help illegal migrants invading the border. Quote, as you can see from their website, part of Catholic Charity's mission is to support the influx of illegal aliens into our country. Taxpayers should never foot the bill for nonprofits who are contributing to the illegal immigration crisis our nation is facing. Good for you, Governor. Good for you. All right, moving on. 17, Sweet 17 says, FLOTUS has responded to the left's complaint. I don't need to attend every rally because unlike Jill and Joe, Donald can take care of himself. I don't have to hold his hand everywhere we go. Also, I'm still a mother. My youngest son just out of high school. I choose to mother him, not Donald. Yeah, you go, girl. That's right. Representative Lone Bobart, rogue bureaucrats at the EPA continue to pander to Green New Deal extremists.
They have. This was a huge victory. And, even in our appropriations bill in the House this year, the funding has been reduced by 20%. I would argue that it needs to be reduced by 100%. But in this, it's because of these radical Green New Deal policies that jeopardize domestic energy development and overload America's power grid and raise costs on American consumers and businesses. So with the EPA and these overreaching regulations, do you have any intent on working with the House majority to lower energy costs and produce more reliable and affordable energy?
If you look at our rule, we are producing reliable, affordable, diverse.
I think Americans' wallets would disagree with that. I mean, the Biden administration, if they continue under Obama's administrative policies, this regulatory pace for a full 8 years, the cumulative costs of this administration's rulemakings would exceed $60,000 per household. And as you know, the Biden administration reversed President Trump's successful deregulation by executive order. So the Biden regime is on pace of increasing regulatory costs at a rate of $617 billion per year in just rulemaking that we are seeing is unconstitutional.
It's just shocking. You spend so much time with our regional staff and regional administration in Region 8 and have such productive conversations about how we're doing things for your district and your state. And then you take this microphone And you
I've
pretend-
also
and-
seen the
and
coal
pretend
plants that
we
have
should
been
not
decommissioned
exist.
in my state.
But
The
100% we should not
I've seen the
exist.
energy regulations
It's just-
that have regulated my district into poverty.
You're spending time
So,
with my
so
staff
sure.
in
Yeah,
your
of
district.
course I am. I have oversight over your staff, and I want them to
complimenting them-
answer. And I want them
complimenting
to
them.
provide a service for the American people.
Complimenting them
But there
about
are
the
so much.
partnerships.
Yes, there are some things that have been done well, but
But we
not
should be
everything.
100%
When we
removed?
have $617 billion per year in rulemaking, that is absolutely absurd. When you are taking our affordable clean energy and regulating it out of existence and killing these good paying jobs in my district, yes, I have a problem with that.
Sure. Yeah.
My time has expired and I yield.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Joanne says, look closely at the guitar.
Am I the only one who notices?
I'm pausing it just so you can look closely at the guitar. Whoop. I knew that was coming. Yep. All right. Proud Elephant says, per Chip Roy, I dare Democrats to vote no against this bill. Here we go.
I kind of dare them. To vote no on a bill supported by 81 to 87% of the American people. I dare them to vote no against a bill that says that only American citizens should vote in American elections. Kind of dare them to go ahead and follow a president who has put out a policy against a bill, the purpose of which is to guarantee citizens are the ones who get to vote in American elections. We'll see. We'll see if our Democratic colleagues want to go to the polls in November, having rejected what clearly the vast majority of their constituents, even in the most liberal jurisdictions of the country, believe is right. But that's what's likely to occur tomorrow if you believe the news and you believe the accounts and you look at what the president's done and you look at the posturing of the House Democratic leadership. They are on the precipice of staking out a position of belief that non-citizens should be able to vote in our elections.
I dare you. I double dog dare you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. A secret expedition to Antarctica found a mysterious cave. Secret X-Files. Here we go. It'd have been nice if they would have put a little vocal context to all that, but it was a beautiful cave. A lot of things. I see the garroting has begun. Yeah. On the guitar was Elvis's mother's favorite flowers. breaking. Representative Jim Jordan is calling on the House to open an investigation into the original January 6th committee and issue subpoenas to Liz Cheney, Nancy Pelosi, Adam Kinzinger, and Adam Schiff. We'll see what happens with that one. All right. Echo X says, Quantum Leap. It was all part of the plan. Here we go.
But today, our country has lost its boldness. Under my leadership, we will get it back in a very big way. If you look at just 3 years ago, what we were doing was unthinkable. How good it was, how great it was for our country. Our objective will be a quantum leap in the American standard of living. Quantum leap in the American standard of living. That's what will happen. But today, our country has lost its boldness. Under my leadership, we will get it.
Yep, we'll get it back. Yep. So many things are out of the ordinary. Yep. All right. Dustin Kittle says, breaking, we placed the U.S. Attorney's Office on verbal notice earlier today that we intend to file a Rule 35 motion asking the court to order a mental and physical examination of President Biden. We received a follow-up from their office a few minutes ago threatening to seek sanctions if a Rule 35 motion was filed. Not once in my legal career have I been sanctioned or disciplined. However, over the past 3 years, these government-hired gun lawyers have turned over my social media postings to the Bar Association, have repeatedly threatened to have me sanctioned, and a U.S. attorney has now said they will ask a federal judge to sanction me if I dare to call President Biden's cognitive function into question for purposes of this legal action. The man has had 1,266 days to appoint 2 people, and he still can't do it. So tell me, is it corruption, or is it possible something has slipped his mind? And to be honest, since the government allowed us to be extorted out of our home, I'm fresh out of sympathy for incompetence or corruption. It matters only for my purposes other than in who I need to be suing. Are we correct in asking a federal judge to require Biden to make these appointments? Or if he cannot make the appointments for whatever reason, do I need to amend our complaint to seek the relief of having him removed from office so there is someone else in place who can make the appointments? Either way, they can start drafting their motion for sanctions. We will be issuing a press release at 9 a.m. Central tomorrow. Now, that should have been released this morning. I have not seen that come up on my feed yet, but I am watching it closely. And basically, this is in the United States District Court for the Middle District of Tennessee, Columbia Division, and it's Joseph Biden in his official capacity of President of the United States, the Farm Credit Administration, a federal agency, Vincent G. Logan as chairman of the Federal Credit Administration, and Wendy LaGuardia as Inspector General of the Farm Credit Admissions. And that's been sent to Judge Campbell. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. All right, Scott Lebedo. I have a couple from him today that we should be covering if our timing was correct in how much I put together today. And Garrett, I was picking on you. Okay, I was picking on you. It's like, dang nabbit, everybody's getting me. I saw it going on in tins too. I did. I know Craig started it, but it was funny. It's funny nonetheless. And for those of you that are wondering what garrotine is when you get into a chat and we got a healthy topic going and somebody starts a conversation about something totally obscure and has absolutely nothing to do with anything in your podcast whatsoever. Yeah, it's called garrotine. Yeah. It's an urban legend now. You're an urban legend, Garrett. Take it as a compliment, brother. Just picking on you. Here we go.
Could us Republicans do one thing right? I'm just asking.
The Democratic Party are so out of fucking whack right now. They're eating each other's assholes like fucking starving zombies. Usually, they stick together. That's why they succeed. Respectfully, I give them credit. Because us Republicans are fighting each other over the stupidest fucking shit. But here is our golden opportunity. This is our shining moment right now. And I hope we don't fucking blow it. George Clooney, that piece of shit. Oh, but he's handsome and he's a genius actor. He's a fucking America-hating jerk-off that you pay him by going to see his stupid fucking movies. He's acting. He is an actor. It is not real what he's saying, or any of these fucking liberal jerk-off commie fucks. So get that out of your fucking head. What did just goes just to prove it? 2 weeks ago, this fucking jerk-off Clooney and his fucking scumbags raised tens and tens of millions of dollars for Joe Biden's campaign. And today, George Clooney and his fucking wife, see you next Tuesday, they just threw Joe Biden under the bus, said they want him out. Half of the Democrats want him out. Half of them want him in. They're in an uproar. They're in total fucking breakdown. Here's where we need to fucking unite, okay? So all you jerk-offs, I'm a Republican, but never Trump. Fuck you, pussy. Get your fucking big boy pants on. If you're really a Republican, you want to save this republic. Get the fuck on board. Trump's the answer. Get together. Let's annihilate these fucking cocksuckers and get this country back. Take advantage of this, all of you.
I should have warned you about the cussing, but sometimes you just got to hear it. Yeah. Shipwreck says Fox News trying to push the Russian narrative again. Oh boy, here we go.
We know that none of this is real, right? Come on, Fox News, what are you doing? First of all, they don't need to. Joe Biden and his administration are doing a fine job in campaigning for Trump and have been the last couple of years. We don't need any interference. It says that Russia is going to use social media efforts and influential U.S. voices to amplify their narrative and other tactics, but it doesn't really state what those other tactics are. Saying that they're going to go after swing states, they're taking a whole of government approach, including presidential race, Congress, and public opinion, that they're so sophisticated. They're going to look to promote device narratives and denigrate specific politicians, although no specifics were provided. And they're going to focus primarily on the Southern or Midwestern accents. You've driven through the Midwest and seen the flags and the bumper stickers. And we went camping last weekend here in my state, and every other camper had a Trump flag on it. Don't need the Kremlin's help. And I think you're just making this up. According to our sources in the Kremlin, what sources? You better start naming them. You start saying what they do and where they work. And you better start letting us kind of connect those dots. We're not going to start this fucking narrative again. We are not. The article also stated that so far that they have seen that China doesn't plan to influence our election at all. Good? I don't know. We need to stop fear-mongering us against other countries. Our enemies, our own enemies here in our country are up in the capital of our country. We're down here in the districts, okay? This is not going to waste its time trying to influence anything at this point. It's so stupid.
Yep. Mm-hmm. All right. Conservative Ant. We're good here, honey. and this is one of the reasons why I play this guy. Okay. And you know, I always try to have one comedian that I'm following that's of sound mind, you know, irrespectively of his sexual preference or anything like that. Okay. And the reason that I do is, number one, we always need laughs, you know, and two is that, in most cases, they come from a different community than what I live in, you know, and to see that we are looking at things and the perspective in which we see them, you know, a lot of things we can come to a consensus on. And one of the things that I've been showing everybody is how his perspective of the letter group, okay, the L, the G, the B, the T, the Q, the whatever freaking other alphabetical letters they use. I mean, they took the rainbow. They're trying to take, the flag, and they're now trying to take over the freaking alphabet. Okay, it's like, and I love it when somebody comes out and said, "Listen, I don't need this particular group to speak for me because I can speak for myself." And well, just listen, you'll get what I mean in this. And I like this. I like how he did this. I think he was respectful, but he was extremely tactful in what he says and how he says it. Here we go.
Let's just read this slowly by the New York Post. MAGA gays feel left out of the LGBT movement. I'll just read the first part. Trump-loving LGBT conservatives say they are marching to the... I can't even read the rest of it because the headline alone, I don't know who needs to hear this, and listen to me closely. Before Donald Trump ever came into the picture, I'm going 10 years ago, I already didn't want to be part of this LG whatever movement. It was no more than a bowel movement at that point, because it became toxic 15 years ago. So that all the toxicity after the Rona made it even, solidified it even more for me of how toxic that I'm not missing out on anything. Life is great, not oppressed. I don't wake up every day pissed off at everybody, because y'all that are in part of that movement, y'all are oppressed about everything. You have a chip on your shoulder about literally, we're living our best life over here, baby. You guys made me run from the left, run from the Democrat Party. That's why I am now a conservative or center. So don't worry, we're good over here.
This is what I'm talking about. It's like he saw this long before it was thrown in our face so much that we, as just average heterosexual men and women, okay, could care less about whether they get this or get that or stop this or stop that. We don't even want to give them a second thought. You know what I mean? And the way that he put that was, I thought it was very, very, I think he did it respectfully, but at the same time, he got a really good jab in there. He says, I saw you were messed up 15 years ago, and you made me run away from you and run away from the Democrat Party and think and act more conservatively. And, it's everywhere. It's everywhere, but, I like the way the Ant does it, because he can make you chuckle. He can, there's things that we played from him that have, make you bust out laughing. What you do in your bedroom is your own business. What you do outside of your home that affects everybody else, okay, is everybody else's business. Okay. But what you do in your home, that's your business. I'm not going to rag on you for that. That's my place to rag on you for that. Okay. I can tell you that biblically it's a sin, but at the same time, I'm also told from that same book not to judge, because I myself will be judged if I do. So it's like, it doesn't work. All right. There is a tiny chance this will pass, Elon Musk says. The Senate, if a few Dems cross party lines, but Biden said he would veto the bill even if it did. I wonder why. Here we go.
Now, all members voted. Does any member wish to change their vote? On this vote, the yeas are 221, the nays are 198. The bill is passed. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Now, all members voted. Does any member wish to change their vote?
I want to point something out here. When he bangs that gavel, they're all supposed to shut up. But as you can see here, everybody's still having their own conversation, not paying a single bit of attention to him. They're just jabbering. How about respecting the chair? How about that? That gavel was banged. Shut up. Move to your seat. Let's prepare to do state business. You know? So past Congress, we'll see if it gets past the Senate. We might be surprised. All right, Echo X goes in a little in depth in regards to Quantum Leap. Let's take a listen.
It's a stock. It's a bond. It's a quantum leap. This is the most recent secret window from the USDebtClock.org X account. Today's date is July 10th, 2024, and we are about to go into our new wealth creation. In order to do this, we have to think about what is wealth. Sure, it is gold and silver. Well, wealth is the ability to operate independently from the government influence, especially on its monetary system. See, currently the monetary system that we operate in is controlled by our government that, let's just say, has some questionable properties attached to it. It is an old legacy system. It takes anywhere from 2 days all the way to a week to send money across borders. It's not fast, it's not secured, it's not transparent, and it's not interoperable. But we're about to do away with that old legacy system, and we're about to go into our new earth as we tap into our new money, our new treasury dollar. This new money will be on the backs of a new monetary system where transactions are sent in seconds. It's extremely cheap to send money, it's transparent, it's secured, and it's interoperable, creating that much needed level playing field that we all want and need. The Bank of International Settlement, Project Leap, quantum proofing the financial system.
Every day, billions of financial transactions are executed globally, from day-to-day retail payments to complex financial market transactions. In our globally connected digital economy, these transactions take the form of electronic records that are transmitted, processed, and stored in computers around the world. Protecting all this data is crucial for the privacy and integrity of financial transactions. Sensitive information is encrypted and signed using cryptographic protocols to ensure that an unauthorized entity cannot read, alter, or counterfeit transactions. Secure and reliable cryptography is key to the stability of our global financial system. Cryptography is based on complex mathematical problems that are carefully designed so that even today's largest computers cannot decrypt them and steal information. But the potential emergence of quantum computers challenges the reliability of current cryptographic systems. Once these computers reach sufficient size and power, they could break current cryptographic protocols. That could be highly damaging and costly for the financial system. While quantum computers are not yet available, the security threat is still real and needs to be urgently addressed. Already today, malicious actors can intercept and store confidential data with the intention of decrypting it later. To counter this threat, Project LEAP, a cooperation between the BIS Innovation Hub Eurosystem Center, Bank of France, and Deutsche Bundesbank, aims to help central banks and the global financial system transition towards quantum-resistant cryptography.
And partnered with the Bank of International Settlements is Ripple, one of the leading fintech payment providers out there that's making connections all around the world. If we take a look at the image of the card, it talks about being a sovereign citizen. Introducing the XRP Ledger XLS40 Decentralized Identity, also known as DID. This technology enables users to control their online identity in a self-sovereign way. The XLS40 DID implementation will use the worldwide consortium standard to enable verifiable self-sovereign digital identity and will be compatible with any distributed ledger or network. The decentralized identity on the XRP Ledger satisfies the following principles right here. Most importantly, it is interoperable. Again, creating that much needed level playing field so that we don't have to rely on the banks and we can start using a bankless card. MasterCard and Ripple joined forces for a game-changing XRP debit card, utilizing the XRP Ledger, all while remaining anonymous.
The name of the Ripple stablecoin will be RLUSD. I like to call it Real USD, Ripple USD. We're very excited about this. I also will emphasize, as I've emphasized many times, we think this is very much complementary, additive to what the overall XRP ecosystem is doing. Anything we do in mind of how do we make sure XRP is as successful as possible for everyone here. Having, as David talked about stablecoins this morning, having liquidity on chain, having the bridging, and frankly, better on ramps and off ramps, that's good for everybody. In no way does that take away from our commitment and our desire to see the XRP ecosystem continue to grow.
The Real USD, because we know that this thing right here is a fake USD. What does David know that we don't know? As he tweeted this out previously about a quantum processor that you can purchase off Amazon for $589. Shout out to Doug for sharing this right here, as the National Quantum Initiative Act was signed in by President Trump on December 21st, 2018. Quantum leap.
But today, our country has lost its boldness. Under my leadership, we will get it back in a very big way. If you look at just 3 years ago, what we were doing was unthinkable. How good it was, how great it was for our country. Our objective will be a quantum leap in the American standard of living. Quantum leap in the American standard of living. That's what will happen.
To find out more about the National Quantum Initiative, make sure you check out their website, because once you do, you will figure out that it actually helped Trump sign in the National Defense Authorization Act in 2019 that gave birth to none other than Space Force. Ooh, Doug dropped another one as he talked about the bankless card and Space Force, making sure you can withdraw your money from the bank one satellite at a time. See, the thing is that Space Force is on a mission. It's on its final frontier as it partners up with SpaceX to safely track and orbit lowering and re-entry of Starlink satellites. And currently there's around 6,200 Starlink satellites in orbit. X currently has 31 money transmitter payment licenses here in the United States, with Ripple having payment licenses in 25 different countries. Seems like the only thing left is a mobile device, but we're just waiting on that flip of a switch moment. Quantum leap in wealth creation. Calculate the first and the last words of the Bible. A series of unfortunate events. Expel the Jews because they control the beast network system. Nothing will happen until after the fall. The Sargasara is the quantum financial system. Transition to greatness. I'm hitting the ground running. Activate all, activate all, activate all. I'm on the right side of history. All directions lead to the truth. And the truth is XRP. Now, I want to let you all know, although I do not cover it much, Stellar XLM plays a critical role because they are going to help bank the unbanked. I just leave it up to the Stellar Bros to handle that information. If you haven't gone down the rabbit hole of learning about the PayPal Mafia, I suggest you learn about it. I believe in this whole entire new financial system. Pretty much anything that is ISO 20022 compliant, I believe in. But this is why it's so important to know what you hold. Let's go.
All right, that was a little Echo X covering that. All right, here we go with Benny Johnson says
you are one of the most hated.
Breaking Attorney General Ken Paxton announces that the House General Investigating Committee in Texas is attempting to collude with the Biden administration to bring a federal case against him or resurrect the impeachment attempt they already failed.
You are one of the most hated men in Washington, D.C. right now. You have launched around 80 very effective lawsuits against the Biden regime. They have been working nonstop with the help of Democrats in your state house to try and take you out, to neutralize you in any way that they can. We saw that last summer when you survived a very fraudulent impeachment attempt. It appears, you're hearing indications that there is another attempt to take you out coming. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the same group, the House General Investigating Committee, headed up by Andrew Murr, who's been knocked out of office. He won't be there after January because his own constituents didn't want him after what he did to me in the last summer. There's indications that this House Investigating Committee, which is supposedly controlled by the Republicans, but largely controlled by the Democrats, in fact, is actually looking at cooperating with the Biden administration to try to take me out with a federal case or do another impeachment in the House, trying to take me out through the Texas House. That's the direction that it looks like, and they're meeting next Wednesday to discuss this very issue.
And the allegation would be what? Because I mean, they failed the last time they tried to impeach you. You won the case. So what's the impeachment? What's the federal case this time?
Well, look, it's the same exact facts, same exact story. They're just going to try to rehash it and repackage it and try to do the same thing a different way. That's all this is. And it's ridiculous because they spent millions and millions of dollars doing this last summer. They took us away from doing the focus of going after the Biden administration and some of these big tech companies. Yeah. And now they're back trying to do the same thing to stop my office from accomplishing the goals that we need to accomplish for the state and really for the entire country.
It's really a look at just how ugly politics can be right there. Ken Paxton, we appreciate you coming on. Thank you, sir.
All right, that was Newsmax. Ken Paxton. Moving on. Boom. Here it is. All of it laid right out by the boss himself. Listen to every word.
Administration, we are taking power out of Washington, D.C. and returning it to the American people where it belongs. And you see it now better than ever with all of the resignations of bad apples. They're bad apples. They tried for a coup. Didn't work out so well. And I didn't need a gun for that one, did I? All was taking place at the highest levels in Washington, D.C. You've been watching, you've been seeing, you've been looking at things that you wouldn't have believed possible in our country. Corruption at the highest level, a disgrace. Spying, surveillance, trying for an overthrow. And we caught them. We caught them. Democrats are obsessed with hoaxes, delusions, and witch hunts. That's what they're obsessed with. That's what they want to do. And we can play the game just as well or better than they do.
Yep. I think we're seeing all of that in reality as we go along here. All right, Tony says, for the first time ever, there's a deal to ban members of Congress from Trading Stocks. Here we go.
So I'm pleased to announce today that we're going to be taking what I believe is a historic step forward on legislation that will ban members of Congress from trading stocks. Senators Merkley, Hawley, Ossoff, and I have come to a bipartisan agreement on legislation. And as chairman of the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, I will be putting this legislation on our committee's next markup later this month, which right now is scheduled for July 24th. So I'm pleased to announce today that we're going to be taking what I believe.
Yep. So, first steps taken. Moving on. Marjorie Taylor Greene thinks Merrick Garland is above accountability. That's what Merrick Garland thinks. Yep. Here we go.
Gentlewoman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since Merrick Garland took over as Attorney General in March of 2021, he has completely subverted and weaponized the Department of Justice. This weaponization of the DOJ has resulted in the persecution of the left's political enemies and a two-tiered justice system. From investigating parents who protest their school boards, to going after pro-life activists and Catholics, to persecuting former President Donald J. Trump, Merrick Garland's corruption knows no bounds. The DOJ's persecution of Joe Biden's primary political adversary, President Donald J. Trump, is illegal and an actual assault on democracy. Raiding President Trump's home for legally declassifying documents and a transparent violation of justice. Persecuting a declared candidate for president of the United States is nothing short of election interference. In the meantime, Merrick Garland has refused to comply with a lawful congressional subpoena, claiming executive privilege, the same defense argued by Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro.
Gentlewoman's time has expired.
30 seconds.
The gentlewoman's recognized.
Thank you. For Merrick Garland and Joe Biden, it's rules for thee, but not for me. I urge my Republican conference to support this resolution, reclaim our congressional authority, and hold Merrick Garland in account for his hypocritical and illegal actions that spit in the faces of all Americans' right to a fair justice system. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
Gentlewoman's recognized.
Mr. Reagan, you unveiled a new rule this year, a climate regulation.
And
The
you guys
rules
didn't hear
designed.
a word I said, did you? I said, MJ Truth Ultra says Joe Biden's EPA administrator unveiled a new rule this year that all vehicles sold in the U.S. must be electric or hybrid by 2032.
Mr. Reagan, you unveiled a new rule this year, a climate regulation. The rules designed to ensure that the majority of new passenger cars and light trucks sold in the United States are all electric or hybrids by 2032. And that's approximately 8 years from now. This is an absurd regulation on tailpipe emissions limits imposed by the EPA. Inflation is so high right now. So high. Many Americans aren't able to even buy a new car right now. They're not able to buy a home. They can hardly afford their rent. I know many senior citizens in my district are having to choose between rent and being able to pay for their medications. This is absolutely unreal that this would be a rule imposed on Americans to the point where they would have, within 8 years, are they even going to be able to buy a car? Think about that. Think about hardworking families, parents both working with their kids. They're just trying to get through life. And this rule that you have imposed is going to force them to, because of the tailpipe emissions, have to buy an electric vehicle. So I don't think many Americans are going to be able to do that. And it's going to drastically drastically crush Americans who, by the way, pay your paycheck, pay my paycheck, pay for this federal government. It's outrageous. Right now, we have an EV euphoria is dead. Automakers are scaling back or delaying their electric vehicle plans. 7.6 of new cars and trucks sold are electric vehicles because nobody wants them. And then let's add on the reality of electric vehicles. Electric vehicles add 1,000 pounds or more per vehicle. That causes damage to roads, bridges, and parking garages. I want you all to imagine for just 1 minute a parking garage that has been built to hold the weight of combustion engine cars and trucks. And imagine a parking garage filled with electric vehicles. It cannot sustain that weight, and neither can many roads and bridges. Electric vehicles are too heavy. There's 2,000 pounds in 1 ton. The Delaware Bridge, for example, has a weight limit of 3 tons. So there's several EVs on the market right now that already exceed that limit for that bridge, for that one bridge. One electric vehicle exceeds the limit, the weight limit for that bridge. Tesla Model X, Audi e-tron, BMW, e-Hummer, and Rivian. Some of these electric vehicles exceed 8,000 pound limits on some of these roads. Because of the rules that you are imposing, this is going to crush Americans' ability to even be able to afford a car and send us back into the time before people could afford cars. And I can't even imagine that. In Georgia alone, we had the electric vehicle car Rivian. They're now delaying construction of a $5 billion factory in Georgia. This is a complete catastrophe, Mr. Reagan. It's a complete catastrophe. And it needs to be undone. The EPA regulations are unsustainable for Americans. And believe me, Republicans want clean air and water too. But the climate cult has got to end. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep. Didn't even go into any questioning of him. Just made a statement on it. And I like that. I like that because it's speaking from the perspective of the American people. Screwbeaver says, I'll leave this right here.
On Mount Rushmore. Trump will end up on Mount Rushmore. But God is doing it. From the time he left until the time he returns, his will is done on earth as it is in heaven. He is the sovereign creator over everything. He controls everything. He has a plan for mankind. He does his will through his children. I believe that Donald Trump believes in Jesus Christ. I think he found Jesus about the same time I did. I believe he's doing God's will for this country. When I saw him at the White House on March the 11th of 2020, when he asked me to come meet with him, he said, I got a couple things I want you to do for me. Will you do them? I remember exactly what I said to him. I said, Mr. President, I believe you are doing God's will for this country. I love America. I'll do whatever you want me to do. And I've stood by him ever since, and I'm not going to waver off of him. I'm not afraid of anybody. I don't wed myself to anybody. I believe that the ruler, the King of Kings, is Jesus Christ. I trust Jesus. Do you?
I absolutely trust Jesus.
As a data analyst? Well, as a data analyst, I bring together data and I pattern it and I trend it. And if I see it in a centralized location, I can tell patterns. I can see where it's happening. Then you can see the narrative.
So you made it.
And so
it's on the same stage that we are. So it's the same one. I'd have to look it up for you, but this is not a show. And it wouldn't be the first time I've been undercover. I was undercover, in Iraq too. So looking for any and all veterans that want to participate in a movement within the movement.
We have an army of digital soldiers. But we are now what I call them, because this was an insurgency, folks. This was run like an insurgency. This was irregular warfare at its finest in politics. And that story will continue to be told here. But we have what we call citizen journalists. Because the journalists that we have in our media did a disservice to themselves, actually more than they did to this country.
About the prayer, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. There's nothing wrong with this prayer.
I love Michael Flynn. I was loyal to Michael Flynn. I stood up for Michael Flynn. I had no reason to attack him until facts came to my attention that raised serious concerns about his truthfulness.
Instrument of those sevenfold rays and all your archangels, all of them.
And I am the instrument of those sevenfold rays and archangels.
We will not retreat. We will stand our ground.
I will not retreat. I will take my stand.
We will not fear to speak. We will be the instrument of your will, whatever it is.
I will not fear to speak, and I will be the instrument of God's will, whatever it is.
In your name and the name of your legions.
Here I am, so help me God, in the name of Archangel Michael and his legions.
We are freeborn. We shall remain freeborn.
I am freeborn, and I shall remain freeborn.
And we shall not be enslaved by any foe, within or without.
And I shall not be enslaved by any foe.
So a lot of people in the Christian world believe that when you pray to Rays of Light and Legion, you're praying to the devil. And so I even saw a show the other day saying, Mike's flipped on the side of the devil. Can you please explain what happened there, sir?
Yeah, so I find it actually pretty funny. But I know that a lot of people, they read so much into this stuff. I carry with me a prayer to Saint Michael the Archangel, who I am named after. So that prayer that I gave, I get up that morning and I felt, when I finish my talk, I want to finish with a prayer. And I was thinking about what should I say, and I carry with me this little card, and on that card is the prayer to Saint Michael the Archangel. So I basically gave a rendition of that prayer, and that's really what this whole thing is about. So all these people that, talk about turning to whatever, that, get off that. Quit. People need to stop overthinking what everybody is saying and listen to what is happening around us. Listen and pay attention to the reality that is happening around us, instead of worrying about, in this case, worrying about and interpreting things that don't need interpretation. Right. That was a very, very straightforward.
Madame Helena Blavatsky, who was a 19th century occultist witch. She was the teacher of the 7 rays of light.
Yes.
She wrote a book, The Secret Doctrine. And she was just as evil as you can get.
Right, which also connects you over to Freemasonry.
Freemasonry.
Right.
Because this guild of magicians had a lodge. So at the core of this thing is Freemasonry.
Mike Lindell has dedicated his life to this, and you have dedicated your life to turning this country around. How do people find out more about your travels, more about your writings?
But like you, Mike Lindell has dedicated his life to this, and you have dedicated your life to turn this country around. How do people find out more about your travels?
Trump knows everything. Michael Flynn was tied to NSO between Obama and when he came into the Trump administration. NSO produced Pegasus, a surveillance software for phones. I noted that the quote-unquote Biden person, whoever it is, imposed a restriction on any American business doing business with NSO. I think Donald Trump knows.
To save yourself, your political career, that's okay. At least you're going to get some good Republicans elected. And, we like you, but my God, maybe you're not that bright. Maybe Trump's actually a dumbass.
If there was a guy if there was a person who could be vindictive against Donald Trump, you're looking at him.
I'm so sick of fucking Donald Trump, man. God, I'm fucking sick of him.
He says he's a Trump supporter, right?
Trump, would you shut up? Would you shut up? Rhetorically, Trump was retarded. Trump was just annoying.
Well, that's exactly how you would do it. Think about it.
Stop the Steal is not just a political movement. It's not even a Trump movement. It's not a Trump movement.
You become the face of your enemy so that when the media demonizes you, they're actually demonizing your enemy.
I'm done with this president. I'm going to go public supporting impeachment. I have no choice. He has to go. He has to go. Run again. You'll get your fucking brains beat in.
This is a conference that General Flynn and Clay Clark put together.
It's like 150 people are going to be there that are all podcasters and influencers, and total something like 100 million subscribers between all the people that are there.
Guys, this made me sick to figure out because, like I said, I was practically worshiping Donald Trump without even knowing it. And Donald Trump is a satanic Freemason.
We have an army of digital soldiers. What we are now, what we call, I call them, because this was an insurgency, folks. This was run like an insurgency. This was irregular warfare at its finest in politics. And that story will continue to be told here. But we have what we call citizen journalists. Okay? Because the journalists that we have in our media did a disservice to themselves, actually more than they did to this country. They did a disservice to themselves because they displayed an arrogance that is unprecedented.
I mean, I could stand all day and go, that son of a gun, look at what he did to me. It's not Donald Trump that did it. It's these institutions.
They bullied him into it.
And it's they didn't bully him.
General Flynn, my gosh.
Yeah.
That's a great way to notice a shill is just find who's calling General Flynn a Satanist these days or a deep state general, and boom, you've got a questionable person right there.
If it took you where you don't want to go into politics, would you consider the vice presidential nod?
Hey, Stu, let's get one thing straight here with Trump. Trump's
suggested you may run for president.
No, don't worry about that.
Gotta love General Flynn. He's taken all the slings and arrows for us. Yeah, so they're trying to undermine the truthful, independent journalists who are over target, like you, like we the media, like Flynn.
And in fifth generation warfare, I part of what I call it a war of narratives, where there's distraction, there's deception, there's truth, there's some physical aspects of it. There's certainly adversarial elements. There's adversarial elements within it that are not normal, what you would describe as military type capabilities, right? Media would be part of that. Propaganda. So smart leaders, smart generals over the history of time, have always used distraction, deception, untruths, and mixed with some truth. That would be a little bit of what we would refer to in the world of deception, particularly deception operations in a military campaign. So you have to have all of these different components, before you even start talking about the physical things that you might do or might not do. But you have to have a different set of adversaries. So right now, I believe in our country, and that's why it's interesting that this commercial came up, essentially, this recruiting commercial came up. They are trying to recruit in this new world. And psychological operations have been around a long time. They've always been trying to recruit, and they get really talented people. They get very talented people, very creative, very, very sort of deep thinkers, some people that would you'd not necessarily say, oh yeah, this is a perfect soldier for the Army, right? Yeah, they're a little bit, the really, really talented ones are the ones that you want to have that kind of creativity. So that's the type of people that you're trying to get from a military perspective. But in the strategic sense of of what is happening to us right now in the United States. And it ties directly into this global reset that is occurring, that is led by the World Economic Forum. It has components in the World Health Organization, in the United Nations, in the World Bank, in the International Monetary Fund, etc. That there are these distractions and these methods that they are using, and in many cases, and in fact in most cases, they're being much more public about what it is that they are trying to achieve.
You understand enough about someone and you can hack their shadow, right? You can use their fears, you can use their anxieties.
There's a movement that spun out of your digital soldiers. I'm tired of these QAnon people attacking me.
Maybe, I don't know that.
But you know some of
I
them.
think it's a disinformation campaign. I think it's a disinformation campaign that the CIA created. That's what I believe, Al.
People don't understand some of the things that President Trump does. They look at it and go, why would he endorse that person? Trust him that he has a reason. If I'm right, and I believe I am, that he's 20 steps ahead of everybody, he knows where he's going. He has not left. Why did Michael Flynn say Trump gave up on us? No, he did not. He's still fighting. Why did Mike Flynn and Sidney Powell and Patrick Byrne try to get President Trump in December to sign martial law publicly? Because if they had done that, and if he had done that, the country would have gone into a civil war, because even half of the people that voted for Trump had been brainwashed to believe that he lost and that he was going to try to coup the country with the military. They tried to set him up. He didn't bite. So if I were Mike Flynn, I wouldn't sleep well at night.
We have great generals, but not the television generals.
But not the television generals.
I want to. I like to introduce myself. My name is Abismal.
It just gets silly at this point here, but you get my point. I don't trust Flynn one bit, not one bit. People tell me I should be looking at him like he's the end all beat all. Guess what? I don't think so. I definitely do not want him as my vice president. I don't. And Linwood is right. Trump puts those people out there intentionally into the limelight in order to bring attention to them and to then expose. That's why he does that. Then he gets to talk smack about him later. Said, I thought he was a good guy, but look at what he's done now. Nope. I don't trust Flynn, and I never will. And that comes from a Marine. On a soldier's perspective, I have absolutely no reason whatsoever to trust Michael Flynn. Period. And these podcasters that we listened to back at the beginning of all of this, Street Fighter, all of them, they were all doing great stuff up until the point that all of a sudden they got this secret intel person. Everybody's got a secret intel person. No, that wasn't a sales pitch for Flynn. That was a sales pitch against him. That was Linwood just putting it out there with everything that he's accumulated. Well, other than actual documents and everything, that he's been privy to. I'd like to see those too. That's it. All right. Even Elon Musk says, having seen the evidence unearthed today by Congress, X has no choice but to file suit against the perpetrators and collaborators in the advertising boycott racket. Hopefully, some states will consider criminal prosecution. Interesting.
We're in the midst of a trust crisis in the world of media, which is because so many in the legacy media have lied in order to preserve left-leaning narratives. To take just the most recent example, we were told by the legacy media that President Biden was just fine. For years, anyone who questioned his health and mental fitness was trafficking in cheap fakes. And then President Biden went out and engaged in full-scale mental collapse on stage in front of hundreds of millions of people. So we can see why Americans, at least Americans who are not Democrats, do not trust the media. The question isn't really why the legacy media have lost Americans' trust. We know that answer. The question is why, despite that loss of trust, the legacy media continue to gain share in the advertising market. And the answer is simple. There is, in fact, an informal pressure system created by Democratic legislators, this White House, legacy media, advertisers, and pseudo-objective brand safety organizations. That system guarantees that advertising dollars flow only to left-wing media brands. Let me explain how this works. When a conservative competitor to the legacy media arises, members of that legacy media and their political allies rush to paint such competitors as dangerous. The commentator Kara Swisher of the New York Times, for example, told the head of YouTube that my videos at Daily Wire were a, quote, gateway drug that would lead children, including her own teenage son, to watch neo-Nazi content. Never mind the yarmulke. Elected Democrats pick up that same messaging. In 2017, Senator Dianne Feinstein told lawyers at Facebook, Google, and Twitter, quote, you created these platforms and now they're being misused, and you have to be the ones to do something about it, or we will. Social media companies react to incentive structures, including threats. They've responded by adopting the standards of third-party left-wing informational safety groups like the Global Alliance for Responsible Media, or GARM. GARM purportedly sets brand safety standards, objective standards by which advertisers and platforms can supposedly determine just what sort of content ought to be deemed safe for advertising. In reality, GARM acts as a cartel. Its members account for 90% of ad spending in the United States, almost $1 trillion. In other words, if you're not getting ad dollars from GARM members, it's nearly impossible to run an ad-based business. And if you're not following their preferred political narratives, the ones that Kara Swisher and Dianne Feinstein would follow, you will not be deemed brand safe. Your business will be throttled. We at Daily Wire have experienced this firsthand. In 2017, after Senator Feinstein made her threats to bring the weight of government down on social media platforms, Daily Wire YouTube channel saw a 1,000% increase in content enforcements over a 2-year period. Since 2021, after Democrat officials further turned up the heat on social media companies, my personal Facebook page has seen an over 80% drop in impressions. Or take Joe Rogan. When Joe said that he had taken ivermectin after getting COVID, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki pressured Spotify to take action, stating, quote, we want every platform to be doing more to call out mis- and disinformation while also uplifting accurate information. Spotify complied. Spotify, of course, works with GARM. So what are the brand safety standards that GARM uses? The standards begin with inarguable things that we've heard from the other witnesses, like preventing distribution of child sexual abuse material or stopping terrorism. But GARM doesn't draw the line at what is criminal, abusive, or dangerous. Their standards also include restrictions on hate speech, harassment, misinformation, or my personal favorite, insensitive, irresponsible, and harmful treatment of debated sensitive social issues. Those criteria are highly subjective in theory, and they are purely partisan in practice. For example, last year, Daily Wire host Matt Walsh was fully demonetized on YouTube, a GARM member. Why? For quote-unquote misgendering, which to GARM is to say that men are not women. Perfectly obvious facts now run afoul of GARM's censorship standards. Companies targeted by GARM, like the Daily Wire, Breitbart, Fox News, and so many others, reach hundreds of millions of people with opinions and beliefs long established as within the mainstream of American conservative thought. GARM and its members have no respect for the beliefs of those people. They would like them marginalized or squashed. It's time to stand up for the First Amendment in this Congress. Congress can do so in 2 ways. First, Congress must investigate the informal and perhaps formal arrangements between censorship cartels like GARM and executive branch agencies. The Daily Wire has already filed a federal lawsuit against the State Department for allegedly doing just this. Second, Congress can itself stop engaging in violation of free speech principles. 2 weeks ago, writing a dissent in Murphy versus Missouri, Justice Alito condemned what he called sophisticated and coercive government campaigns against free speech. Members of this committee have engaged in precisely such campaigns. When Congressman Schiff speaks about targeting social media companies that must be, quote, pulled and dragged into this era of corporate responsibility because they are too tolerant of misinformation, he knows what he is doing. He is participating in a sophisticated coercive campaign against free speech. When Congresswoman Jayapal blames social media for placing America at the, quote, precipice of a democratic crisis and calls on them to target they deem hate groups, she also knows what she is doing. She is participating in a sophisticated coercive campaign against free speech. When Congressman Hank Johnson says, quote, we need a constitutional amendment to allow the legislature to control the so-called free speech rights of corporations, he also knows what he is doing. We all know what these government actors, what some people in this room are doing. You're using the tacit threat of government action to compel private companies to throttle viewpoints you don't particularly like. The First Amendment was not designed to enable workarounds by elected officials. It was directed at Congress, at you, and you're abdicating your fundamental duty when you exert pressure on private companies to censor speech. Some in this room have been doing just that for years. We in the non-legacy media have been feeling the effects. In the name of the Constitution and in the name of democracy, this should stop.
Yeah, how about that? How about that? Yep. All right. Cash Patel. Got time for a couple more. Want to end this at the 3:30 mark if I can. Here we go.
Before, and hopefully I won't screw it up in the next 4 minutes. But I think the reason the War Room posse and people subscribe to this show day in and day out is because the level of details you get about everyday issues, from things like natural disasters to Congress to presidential elections to the southern border to the never-ending wars to the CCP to Russia to hostage rescue operations and to taking on the narco traffickers and so much more. I understand now fully why the War Room posse is so engaged and so powerful. And this is probably why I'm going to ask the War Room posse to start calling Congress right now and start emailing your representatives. I have a list. Here, thanks to Cameron over in the dojo. There were 4 Republicans voted with every Democrat to stop the inherent contempt vote of Merrick Garland. They are Duarte, Joyce, McClintock, and Turner. Duarte, Joyce, McClintock, and Turner. Now, folks, I'm not asking you, never would advocate for you to personally attack them. This is a subject-based argument that they went against what we as Americans believe in. And this is a perfect place to end the show. If you don't understand what inherent contempt is, we got to this point because the Republican majority failed to initially hold Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress for violating a congressional subpoena, because he went to Joe Biden and said, you have to claim executive privilege over these audio tapes. It is the complete hypocrisy and total two-tier system of justice on steroids to say that Joe Biden gets to claim executive privilege, but Donald Trump doesn't. Putting that aside, Merrick Garland still broke the law, and Congress needs to be able to rein him in. And since the Republican majority failed to hold him in initial contempt, there is a unique power, which I discovered when I was heading the Russiagate investigation, called contempt of Congress, inherent contempt of Congress. Simply because you cannot have America's top cop police America's top cop. Merrick Garland is never going to arrest himself and put himself in jail, especially when he has created the two-tier system of justice. So enter Anna Paulina Luna, a brave warrior from Southern Florida and a friend of mine in the programs who thought to implement inherent contempt of Congress. That is to say, Congress can go out there and say to anyone that has violated their congressional subpoenas, like Merrick Garland in this instance, and get the sergeant at arms to go out and arrest Merrick Garland. And look, I know it's an extreme measure, and the mainstream media will be like, why would you ever do that? But they would never be afraid to do it to any one of us or any one of you or to Donald Trump if it came to it. And we cannot have the top law enforcement officer in our country able to create an alternate universe of justice, able to create an alternate system of exoneration. Every single one of us would be put down by that very same form of injustice that he is seeking to get an excuse from and put us in prison. Just think about it. How would it fare if Congress subpoenaed you and said, we want all these documents, and if you don't show up, we're going to throw you in prison? You'd probably comply. But Merrick Garland thinks he's above the law. And folks, to me, that's what this coming election is about more than anything, the United States Constitution. We don't have a revenge plan. We don't have a revenge list. We have the greatest document in U.S. history. It's called the United States Constitution. That is our retribution, the U.S. Constitution, when it is fully implemented. One system of laws for every single person in this country, not hypocrites who say that, and like Merrick Garland, then to implement a separate system of injustice for them and so many other Americans who have been broken down and attacked and targeted by this system of injustice. So on that one, I'm proud of the Republicans that voted for it. I'm completely in awe of the Republicans that we said that voted against it. Let's hear your voices. Let's call them. Let's email them. And that's why we did Government Gangsters, the movie. That's why we did Government Gangsters,
Interesting.
Before, and hopefully I won't screw it up in the next 4 minutes.
We don't have a revenge list. We have the Constitution. All right, this is going to be the last one for today. Shipwrecked.
You know what? It never fails. Anytime I make a video and I talk about the things that are happening with women and their health and the way that they're being dismissed, there is always a group of men, a handful of men that are in the comments saying, well, what about men? What about you? I'm not a man. Maybe you should stand up with the rest of us and start making videos and talking about it and spreading awareness about it. They're just hiding in my comments. I'm not going to come out here and save men. I'm not. I'll save my man and I'll save the men in my life, but it's not my job to save you from the government. We went through this when we started talking about the transgender stuff too. Now women were coming under attack because of the transgender women that were taking up women's spaces. Never felt there were men in my comments saying, well, you deserved it. I guess you shouldn't have been an ally then. I guess you shouldn't have labeled masculinity as toxic. The reality is that it was the majority of men that let it happen. The majority of men that didn't want confrontation. So they just stayed quiet. Don't talk politics at the dinner table. It's an uncomfortable conversation. Keep your mouth shut to keep the peace. I have made videos about the low testosterone that is happening because of the hormones in our food and in our water. And every single woman in that comment section, they don't say anything like this. They get all, we need to save our men. We need to do something. We need to do something. We need to sue. We need to save our men. They are just so supportive of our men. But yet, every single time I get comments like this, men like you are the reason that the women took the women's movement to such a fucking extreme. You should probably self-reflect.
Yeah. You should probably self-reflect. Testosterone levels are dropping. Oh my. Not my fault. But if it is affecting your life, then do something about it. Stand up for yourself, you know. All right. So once again, tonight I will be joining Ronnie, Mr. Ronnie York, and Dave Snedeker and Slow Country for a period of time. I hope we'll keep a hope in that. He's concentrating on family right now. That's why he hasn't done anything new lately. Don't think that he forgot anybody, because he didn't. He's concentrating on family and things that need to get taken care of around the house. So I will see you guys again later tonight. And the link is pinned at the top of the chat. I tried to make sure that the chat will be there on the replay. I'm not positive it will. But I will go back and check and see if I can get that. Because I like going back and rewatching chat and watching Garrett squirm a little bit when we talk about Garrettine. It's all right. And we will be on X as well as Ronnie's Rumble. Dave will probably be podcasting it to his Rumble. I'm not positive. But I'd like to try and get as many people involved in the YouTube chat on Ronnie's page as much as possible. I'd like to see him get a killer amount of views for his birthday celebration and general topics of discussion that we will be having tonight. Remember, guys, our Creator loves you, every single one of you. With everything, with every ounce of his being. All right. The Christ, his son, his greatest sacrifice. The son who set him free from the temple so that we could all communicate with him. Well, he loves you too. And so do I. I'll see you later. Peace.